Let's see. Mic check, mic check. Um, okay. Yeah. welcome, welcome back. Can't really see you right now. It's kind of dark and my eyes are like really super bad. So, wait, I was wondering if you could hear me. All right, yeah, excellent. Because I sure as fuck lost my voice. I don't know what happened, but I lost my voice for like 2 days. Believe me, it's really bothering me. Because Lord knows, I love to be singing my ass off, but can't be singing with no voice. Um, I think it's just whenever I get mad, that shit just goes. Um, welcome to the revolutionary agenda. um, the REA. I'm your host, Seduction Doll, aka the Black Villain, or Lady J, or Brandy, however you want to call it. Forgive my voice. Y'all always gotta give me grace for something, right? I feel like I'm always telling y'all to give me grace for something. Either I'm super swollen or super sick. It's always something, right? Um, I'll see you in a minute, Mac. Glad you're here. Uh, let's see. Let me fix the mic real quick. Because, fortunately, it's set up for height. And, you know, I have to talk like, I have a low voice. So, normally, normally, um, I think that sometimes, you know, because sometimes, you gotta get loud, right? I don't know. No, I gotta do something about this damn show. I guess I'm gonna start taking it seriously. Because Jesse be telling me that nobody cares what I talk about. I'm always talking about different things um, that people aren't concerned about. I was like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It. So we talk about the same shit that is being talked about all over the new black media, or we could talk about some other stuff that's happening as well that we should be pretty fucking cognizant of because we are at war instead of blindsidedly. Oh my god, I didn't realize. You know what I mean? But here at the yeah, I gotta have a voice. Um, here at the RVA, I'm gonna teach you some different shit. We talk about it. Um, it's pretty important. Lots of things that are happening, pretty important. And I don't really give a damn about the shenanigans of the president. But there's a lot of stuff happening that you should pay attention to. Because we tend to act out. We just tend to just be minding our own business, gallivanting all over the world, and not paying attention to serious shit. It could probably kill us, or that's moving closely into our neighborhoods, and it's another form of um, ethnic cleansing, genocide on a urban level. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, Mac. I got like the daintiest female voice ever. um, we just finished with frontline black news. Hold on one second, okay? I'm just have to adjust my seating because I'm like all up on the camera. Can't really see, and can't really see, but the hair is everywhere, right? Hold on one second. Give me 1 second, brother. Don't go nowhere. Just give me 1 second. I have to like fix my leg on my chair. Um, 1 second. Yeah, Cuz says that Jesse says that nobody pays attention. And to be honest, that's crazy. to 1 second. Says that because I guess he has to always apologize for me, right? Um, I'll explain this is my thoughts on that, right? So I'm gonna say I just to be doing too much, right? No. Okay, there it goes. He fixed it kind of. Family, if there is a level of pain that a woman could be in, I think I'm past it. I'm not your friend. I think I'm past the levels. What is that? A broken hip. One second. Forward. 1 second. Oh, I forgot my water. Don't remember this. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, I like fractured my hip. And, I haven't been able to fix it. Plus the way I'm like naturally 2 inches shorter on one side. Oh my god, I left my little water container. Thank God I turned off the camera. Y'all saw the stroke. It was so real right there. So anyway, lately the girl has been out of pocket, I guess. I don't know. Technically because I'm just doing me. But I'm doing something that I can't really, feel accountable for. Like, I'm not a scary individual. I was gonna say I'm not a scary Negro. I'm not. I don't play safe. I play for keeps, really, if you're gonna be technical. But I don't play safe. I don't do safe things. Um, I don't really code switch either, or apologize or anything like that. Hold on 1 second. That's slouching. I'm trying to take the pressure off my off my legs. My leg anyway. 1 second. Jesse was with me all weekend, and I was pulling so much fluid off because um, the last time we were together, everybody, I was super swollen. Then we got snowed in. Well, he said it was snowed in. It was like a light dusting, but for me, I got a heart condition, so it's like whatever. And right now, my heart hurts, like right here. Anyway, so let me tell you what your girl's been up to. They call and snitch on me, right? Y'all know I get down. We be at city council, whatever, and yeah, I get down. I talk. I could talk. I could speak more eloquently if I felt like it. 90% of the time, I really just don't feel like they're worthy of that. A lot of people aren't worthy of me doing anything, really. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm just be my normal, usual self, right? At city council, we sit on boards, really important ones. And I've been this way since, God, probably since I kicked my way out the Gucci. Been like this. So I would say I curse too much. I would say and. You know what I mean? I like cussing. It's not like I don't know how not to. You know what I mean? I like cussing. I like drinking. I like dancing. You know what I mean? This conformity bullshit, man, has never got me nowhere. It's a people pleasing thing, right? Now, motherfucker, people please all day long, but it don't get me nowhere. It doesn't get anybody anywhere, except the people who are making me do it. They seem fulfilled because it's a conformity that they feel like they have control over my behaviors, right? Well, there's no cricket is not to control, right? So what people call, like, you prime example, city council, right? Motherfuckers, you like your hair? Motherfuckers call them, and they be like, um, what's wrong with her? Chasey, you need to control her. And she represents right? And in my defense, since before I even jumped on any of these boards, because I am I am from the bottom. I am the people. I lived at the bottom. That means I know how to fix it, right? Um, Straight out the street, right? In all kinds of formats. It's irritating, Jess doesn't like it, but it's not about him. It's just who I am. I got tired of conforming. I got tired of simmering. That was like confused shit. Like, from a person like me with ambiguous looks, and is what it is who she is. Um, People always want to change me every motherfucking day. Somebody want to fucking change me. I'm sorry, I lost my voice. Someone wants to change me. You can't. I might play along for a minute, but at the end of the day, wasn't really getting me right. And so for me, I'm like, I'm just doing whatever I do. Now when it comes to city council, I just say some egregious shit. But I don't cuss. I don't curse at them. I've yet to call somebody a mammy, you know what I mean? Or a bootlicking fucking tether. Yet, okay. I have yet to do that. I've yet to call somebody anything. If anything, I've said people are being tokenized and illegal aliens think they can run over us. And that those days are over with. Do something about it. You know what I mean? But I don't cuss at them. City council, right? I cuss about them. Sure. I talk mad shit about them all the time. I talk mad shit about a lot of motherfuckers that live here in the city that are coons. And I said it. I meant it. And, you know, so, in Jesse's view, though, Jesse cursed out anybody and everybody without using one cuss word. Me, I'm like, fuck you, eat a dick on Wednesday. Eat two on Tuesday. I give no fucks. Have no feelings about it. Shoulder shrug, shoulder shrug. You know what I mean? It's a cold, cruel world. Deal with it, right? But I don't apologize because if I said something, I fucking said it. But, I'm in the moment. In fact, I'm like in the moment 10 minutes ahead of time. So when people hate me, it's like, it's jealousy, I think, in my mind. I'm going to say they're just jealous. Because I'm saying what no one else is going to say. Everyone's playing safe. We're at war. And in my mind, right, I'm only doing what was reprogrammed and re-educated me to do, right? Recodified. And that's standing on everything. Standing on what we're saying. Don't embarrass the collective. Now we're fighting a war of active racism, white supremacy on a fucking day-to-day basis, all goddamn day long. Right? It's my bitch. In all 9 areas of human activity. Right? I don't even play suspected white supremacist, any of shit. You are. You say I'm prejudiced. Alright. You hear me? Phobics? No. Unless you count that I don't like white people touching me. They get germs. You hear me? I be putting on my mask when I'm at the courthouse and stuff. Like, says one would sneeze on me, it's a wrap. You know? Yeah, and I don't like gentrifiers. I don't like colonizers. I don't like panderers. You know what I mean? I don't like none of that shit. I want motherfuckers to tell the truth from jump. You ask me something, I'm gonna tell you the truth. Tell you how I feel about it. You might not jive with it. You know? Okay. Don't. The doll is an acquired experience. Anyway, he says nobody watches the program. And he found a way to hurt my feelings about it, right? In my defense, I don't really share it. I'm kind of shy about my work, like Erica Badu. I can't, don't hurt my feelings. But if I say something, it's because I have thoughts on it, thoughts and opinions on it. A lot of this politics stuff is for the birds, right? But it's important because there's only a handful of us that are really working on drafting policies to better our people, meaning better FBA here on the soil. Everyone else got to hold their own fucking nuts like they've been doing. Everybody stepped on fucking black people in America like we didn't matter. We fucking built this shit, right? And because I think that it's because I'm so fair and ambiguous looking, and I'm just saying all this wild pro-black shit, right? Which is not shit. It's just that's how I feel. Right? It's like a real reactionary, revolutionary type shit, right? I'm only interested in bettering the plight of our people here. You know what I mean? Yes, I know there's other people who live here. That ain't got shit to do with me. Everybody got their representatives. They work so hard. But when it comes to us, we got nothing but tether classes and undermining. You know what I mean? We got people talking about us like that we're not smart or whatever, misinformation, because who fucking knows what, right? The reality, it takes a lot to be a signal booster for the new black media, right? But in this case, for me, sorry, my hands are shut. In this case, for me, I've been the drum hard, like hard. Here we go. And we're actively fighting for reparations. You know what I mean? Seriously. And a crime bill and holding police accountable. Like with jail and actual enforcement of these rules, right? And for somebody like me, who didn't have a real good education, didn't have shit. I'm from the street, been in the street. Justice institutionalized. It's his opinion, right? My mind, I'm like, look, I'm just saying what is the facts of what I'm supposed to be saying in all 9 areas of human activity. We're supposed to call out the fucking injustice. We're supposed to let it out. Be very bold that these politicians aren't doing a motherfucking thing for us. And when I mean for us, I'm going to say for unhoused, black, anything, females, children, men. Currently, right now, it's cold as hell, and there's a whole bunch of men outside sleeping under tarps and boulders right outside the door. Right? It's super, super stupid because it snowed. It didn't get very much, but it was like 19, 13 degrees. Right? Okay. It's tough. Right? I'm the villain. Somebody has to be. Somebody has to tell the truth. Someone has to call thievery out. Someone has to call ambulance chasers out. They capitalize on black death and black pain. You got that right. Cut the check. This is a motherfucking death that's owed. You know what I mean? We shouldn't have to be talking to them and, they can't find the money. Well, you can find it. You just don't want to. But if you really made it important, you would find it. And so when we do the reparations hearings, me and Jesse go up there, and I just have to ask direct questions, like I did last time. If I give you a bill or something written in your language, the way you write things up, to mend or fix things, to create stuff, specifically for FBAs or Native Black American freedmen, foundational Black American freedmen. You know what I mean? Can you walk it through to the governor? The answer is yes. I avoided all kinds of shit. One man, one walk for him. You dig? And whoever decides it, it's gonna be a motherfucking hero of Black people, right? Because at the end of the day, they want us to vote. We ain't voted for tangibles. Jesse wouldn't voted. I didn't vote. I say I'm sitting on the couch. It's Black vacation time. It's Black vacation time, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that people fuck with me all the time about my codifications. I'm qualified to say man, the journey of genealogy. I'm on it. I'm looking. It's not gonna stop the motherfucking grind though. It's not gonna stop that how people see me. You know what I mean? And so what? I'm a fucking villain. Right? But it also goes to other platforms, right? Apparently, I was in my mind, I'm telling the truth. And I'm saying what needs to be said. I guess I'm too excitable about it. And some of you are like, look, man, what's up with your girl? Ooh, telling him. And he's like apologizing. Don't apologize for me. I did that. Right? When I say stuff, it's supposed to be impactful. It's supposed to hit like how it hits. You did? He isn't doing it. Because I know nobody likes me. Not the first time. I don't think anybody's ever liked me. Anyway, what's that got to do with anything? Right? So no one likes me. Should I just stop doing what I'm doing? Because handful of motherfuckers are just so, oh my God, with it. What did you expect me to be? Oh, yes, Vanessa. No. Bow down. Bow down to what? No. If I let all these motherfucking benign neglect miscreants get away with that shit, then I'm just as bad and just don't give a fuck about our people like everybody else. And that's a lie. Right? That's a lie. If I could stand up and not be a hero but make a fucking direct fucking comment, to make something stop. Like if Jesse says so and so don't say the N word, then that means don't suck and say it. Right? We might get body. Well, shit. You're not qualified. You don't give a fuck who you know. Now you're just snitching and telling on anybody. And nobody gives a fuck about a person who only has one black friend. And you think that's a lie. Or me cussing out white folk because they keep bringing up Malcolm X and using little snippets of the I Have a Dream thing. Like, because that's not what that's all about. If you really gave a fuck, you'd advocate. I mean, like, fucking use your privilege. But it's okay. Keep your motherfucking privilege in your pants. We got this. Don't worry about it. And if not, I got it. But when he says things like nobody listens and nobody cares about what I'm saying, it's like, well, she does hurt my feelings. But I don't put too much blood, sweat, and toil into the war so far. He did. So, in my mind, everybody can just simmer down and get adjusted. You know what I mean? It's like the female Eric Mays, except worse. You know what I mean? And I'm being good. I'm a fucking leader, not a follower. So everybody's mad at certain things going on in the city or in the new black media. I'm asking questions and not doing any of that. Like, motherfuckers say, oh, so changed up. Eh, did he? Really? Because certain things you just have to think about outside the box. You really have to look at and not really get mad, in my opinion. Especially when it comes to ideologies. No one can tell you how to believe. If you don't, that's your ideology. It's your motherfucking ideology. As long as you understand that things that are going down in the black agenda about lineage-based, cash-based reparations. You know what I mean? Land things, fuck sex, etc. You know? So, right, I'm only doing God's work. Apparently, I was like, so they said, turn her down. Evidently. I was like, please, don't, because if you turn me down, then, I'm not going to be inclined to carry on doing the work because, it's fucking already hard enough to follow him in his shadow, but to be doing the work and then everybody fucking with me about it because of the way I look and that I'm standing on saying it with my whole chest and the tone is exuding seriousness because power is taken, not given. And I don't ask, I tell. You know what I mean? So I can tell you what to do. You don't tell me what the fuck to do. You know what I mean? Get on my vibrational level. Maybe we'll talk about it. But until then, shh, sit it down, right? Then everybody's like, girl, that's together. So then he calls and says, nobody wants me to do platforms because of you. And it's always my fault. Because I'm the catalyst. He says, it's always because I'm around or whatever. And shit. Don't apologize for me. I know what the fuck I did. I know what I said. But if I'm wrong, show me. Show me I'm wrong. And I'll apologize. And I'll actually take the looks off, look a motherfucker in the eye and say, I know what's wrong. I apologize. My fault. But go ahead. Teach me what you're trying to teach. You know what I mean? Go ahead. I'm not opposed to learning something. Do it with the right reasons. The shit that happens in our city is not for the right reasons. You know what I mean? I want you tokenizers tokenize. Nobody's saying anything about it. I'm gonna call it out. I want you illegal aliens to get away with madness. Coming in our city council begging and shit. Watching the mayor lie. I'm watching people that we sit on boards with call and dime me out. Multiple calls to where someone has to call and talk about me, right? Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I'm like, what did I do wrong? Even online, it was live. I'm like, if you say such and such about somebody, and I say, hey, well, check this out, such and such is a cancer to the motherfucking, to the war, and to the people, specifically, are us. Why don't you just cut that out? Cut him out like a cancer. And it's all bad because I said that live, like whatever. Well, I was just following the lead. It was okay for everybody else to do and say, but it's not okay for me to say. It's basically the same shit. Standing on it though. Is it because I'm fair skinned? That's the stupidest motherfucking reason ever. If that's it. If it's because motherfuckers look at me and think I'm smart enough to understand. Shame on you for sleeping on intelligence. Like, what do you mean? It don't make no sense because if you're not gonna do it, you're playing save Negro politics. That's for a lot of people. Then you need this if you want reparations or you need reparations. Or fucking you need somebody to activate and fucking get loud on your behalf. Stop fucking with me, you know what I mean? Right? Not my fault. Shit, confidence is key, baby. You know what I mean? I say, confidence is key. It's not my fault. A lot of motherfuckers don't have the confidence to exude the energy that's probably meant to be put out there. That's not my fault. It's like me saying, Mama couldn't hang. No, she couldn't. Is it wrong? No, it's the truth. You know what I mean? Motherfuckers easy quickly whipping that shit, be like, doo 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 doo. Tell me all kind of fuck shit. Like, in my mind, then why do it? You know what I mean? Why do it? If it's gonna be like this, why should I do it? What's What's the benefit? And then I thought about it and was like, shit, that's exactly what a hater would do. A hater wants a motherfucker to quit because they think they're better, right? It's not about better. It's just about um somebody has to do different kinds of things. Someone can't always follow the train. Free thinkers don't follow. They lead. You know what I mean? Same with fucking special people like me. We lead. Follow me, follow me, follow me. You know what I mean? If you don't work this way, we gotta have 4 more plans for it to go some kind of way. You did? I have to take off my feet all fucking day long. All day my brain is moving. Straight ADHD. Can I calm down? What? You know what I mean? Why does everybody want to change the doll? You know what I mean? Like, everybody's like, it's been a problem, right? I'm a fucking problem, they said. Liability, Justice said. I was like, what? Liability? Because in my mind, hold on. In my mind, I'm not. If you was an individual, can you hear me? If you was an individual that was used to people being around you and following you because you had great insight, would you be upset? And you're just like, now you don't think I'm the greatest. Okay, well, I'm not my job to convince you. It is. It's not my job. Not even a little bit. So this has been going on. I find it amusing if people don't tell me shit. And ever since I was a little girl, my brother said, nobody wants to tell you anything. You don't react well. And I was like, God damn, well, that's crazy. How does a motherfucker react to certain injustices? You know? I don't want to believe them, so even if there's 1, 2, 5 people in here or not, what you're getting is a realistic um, exploration. I'm still learning too, you know. Jesse had to teach me a whole bunch of things the other day. Sorry, girl. I've been really sick and a lot of pain. Don't worry, I went to the doctor. I'm slouching right now. I went to the doctor and they said what they said. That means I gotta really, 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 really try to better my depression. You know, because I never felt it before. All of a sudden I'm feeling it. And trust me, a person like me wants to have a baby one more time. So I shouldn't be thinking ugly thoughts around people. You know? So but it's happening. Anyway, Philly. Enough about that. I'm glad you're with me. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you decided to stop in at the revolutionary agenda. I'm glad you decided to um come in here and hang out with me. I know the background's blurry and stuff, but the man has to unpack his house, so it's not really us for us to judge it. He's very busy, and with me being sick all the time, he's super busy. So um, hopefully everything will work out soon, and he get the things that he needs because he does do a lot of walking and transporting me from his house to my house, and that's a lot for a man. You know what I mean? He also walks the dog too when he's there. Again, that's a hard thing for a man to do full time. And he does it because he wants to help me succeed. You know what I mean? Whereas like just go home, I got this. And he says it's like, no, I was in charge of you and this. And to me, that's very respectful. So I try to behave myself. You know what I mean? I really do. I don't want to. The one thing I don't want to do, and that I was sure that if I did them, my mother would be very upset. But I don't want to be a shopper anymore. I actually want to do good things. I don't want to waste my time in the alley no more. I just want to do good things. And that's that. Now, I'll play these clips and we'll talk about them intermediately. So, sit down, buckle in, let's get to it. I'm not going to do a lot of talking like I'm doing now. If you got any questions, still, if you don't, I'm going to go ahead and head out. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Peace. Hold on a second. Now we can get to the big stuff. Okay, hold on. Listen. Oh my god. I don't know how to take this pressure off this little hip. My poor Jesse, he was trying to help his best as he could. And as best as he could. And you did a pretty good job. You did a pretty good job helping me with my medicines and things like that. And it's really exciting, so I'm glad he's able to. It's a lot. It takes a lot for a man to take care of a woman for a long time, especially when that woman's a free thinker. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna catch me lacking or anything like that. I'm serious about taking care of my family. Very serious. What's that? What's this? Okay, I gotta take off my glasses. Yeah, it's pretty bright right here. Jesse got a game today. He's all so excited, so. And he's fucking, right now, activate, upgrade shit. Uh-huh. I'll tell you this. Oh, you can't. Alright, Kim, okay, hold on a second. Sorry. No makeup. Hold on a second. It's easier to talk into the mic as low as I'm talking. Oops, check. No, not for anything particular. I'm not being really quiet. It's just that Jesse just laid down. And I'm trying to avoid I'm already overextended my welcome, you know what I mean? So I don't want it to be any worse. See. Let me read what's in there. Damn lips. So chapped, cracking. Well, yeah. Jesse's Jesse is sleeping. So, see. All right. Shout out to you. He's asleep. And he needs all the rest he can get because today he has the food bank and he's game, shower and stuff. Feed the cats, all this stuff takes time. Right? All this stuff takes time. Let's see. Right. So we're gonna study first. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. Okay. Nobody can pick up. I couldn't. I can't read it. Okay.
I know you're used to CEOs who don't answer your question. I'm going to directly answer your question. I get yelled at all the time for Ukraine, ICE, Israel, and generally telling the truth, which I would call, okay, the chance of world survival goes up as America becomes stronger and more
All
dominant.
right. So I'm start running these clips. Family. I have to go off camera for a minute. Just because I have to go off camera. I need to drink some water and figure out where my foot is flying. It's real quietly, Um, pay attention. So Palantir is everywhere. Palantir is like in every state almost now. But we definitely got one. And it is ugly. I mean, they're really surveilling, which I think is oh man. Here we go. Just it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, I gotta go camera. So just stay here. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. That's not like a PBS commercial.
Alex Karp, thanks for having us into the Palantir lair in Manhattan. Welcome to the Axios Show. You're CEO, co-founder of Palantir. What the hell is Palantir?
Well, it depends who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to you, we are growing the GDP of the U.S. We are the part of the GDP of the AI economy where things are useful, either on the battlefield or commercially. And we're the only AI company with a real spread function to the working class Americans. If it's the third or fourth conversation, it would be more like we went long on the reality that large language models were useful in their application in our software and are not going to be as performant as people want outside of it.
You talk about a single pane of glass, right? That connects AI, connects data, connects analytics. Let's give viewers an example. I'm a commander in the battlefield. What can Palantir tell me about my assets?
Well, if you're a commander in the battlefield for the first time, you have access to all your assets. When I say all, I mean also assets of foreign countries you work with that are sharing a subset of the data.
So I'm looking at this pane of glass, and what does it show me?
Well, it probably at this point is showing, again, it depends what you're doing, but it's probably showing, if you're, say, doing a complex operation, it's showing you where the plane should fly, where the troops should be, where the missiles should go, where they shouldn't go. And again, it's doing this off of data sets that were not available to you last year. It's also be able to predict where you should put your assets. It can and will soon be able to pick up what kind of what kind of missiles do you put on what kind of targets? So do you put your really expensive missiles on your really expensive targets? It will at some point, and again, this is one of the most important things that's overlooked, be able to totally orchestrate the supply chain. So what are you building? How are you building it? Where is it being building? And what companies are doing it, understanding the costs for those companies, which is currently something that's very, very hard for those companies. So there's the kind of sexy, violent part of war, which obviously in this case would mean, honestly, for this commander, what it basically will mean is you will be ahead of your adversary. You'll be able to predict their actions. You'll be able to put the best effectors on the most important targets and the cheaper ones on less important targets, i.e., by the way, honestly, the most important thing Palantir does is prevent war.
So that
And-
sounds very useful. Why are people so suspicious of you?
Well, I actually would push back on that. Which people are suspicious? So, like, you know, it's really interesting. I was watching someone on TV who was like, I talk to special operators, I talk to military people, they love to Palantir. Okay, so I'm just going to say, for the sake of being somewhat of a jerk, the people I care about, the people on the front line in factories, the people driving trucks, the people doing things, the people who've used our products, the war fighters. How did we get our business off the ground? War fighters who are sacrificing their lives went to generals and said, I don't care what stars you have, I'm coming home alive. You know, a lot of those people are suspicious of us now, try to take the product out of their hands. Almost all of our clients, meaning people who've bought our product, started off as Palantir skeptics. And I've gone into tens of thousands of meetings. Now, currently, when I meet the Palantir skeptic, I'm like, that's the person who's going to buy. Because they have legitimate questions like, is this product being used to take away my right to go have a hot dog with a coworker I'm flirting with while being married? Which honestly, you know, I think is the God-given right of people in this country. Can I take the day off and tell my employer I'm working when I'm not? Great, maybe you shouldn't do that, but I support that. Can I have views that are deviant from my bosses? Like, I mean, actually, we have an environment here where you can have any view you want, but let's just say somebody here hates what we're doing at ICE, hates what we're doing in Israel, and hates what we're doing in Ukraine, and doesn't somehow want to express it. They're being correct to think they'll be penalized for it, but they think that. Can I have that view at home in my house? What I would tell those people is, listen carefully to the people who are saying we're doing surveillance. Listen to every word they say. Write those words down. Spend 10 minutes looking at our product. And, you know, you decide.
Zoom out beyond Palantir and society. How worried are you about a surveillance state?
So our primary worry should be, are our enemies so scared of us that they do not fight with us? They
And who's our enemies?
Well, you know, I mean, you pick your, like, you know, the usual. We do not sell to China. We don't sell to Iran. We don't sell to Russia. I actually would say adversaries, not enemies, because I think when you get in the enemy thing, it's a way of being dysfunctional. But like, are people scared of us? Do terrorists plan terrorist attacks against us, or do they feel that they shouldn't because they're so scared? And like, and by the way, that's the single best way to ever stop wars. The primary evidence for a surveillance state in the West is not government on consumer. It's company knowing every single action you have at all times. And we walk around with surveillance devices called electronic devices, and every single thing we do is monitored, not, I think, primarily so people can eviscerate or have an understanding of, am I shagging with too many people on the side and lying to my partner, or lying by omission, because they want to sell us like cornflakes. That's the reality of life in the West. Can the government surveil your patterns of behavior? Like, it's called pattern of life surveillance, which is a very, very, very important way of finding terrorists and in general criminals, because like everyone has a pattern.
So you're saying it's worth it?
No, I'm not saying that. Here, the problem is these things require very, very precise tools. Yes, we are monetizing the fact that these decisions are difficult. We're monetizing the fact that they're hard. We're monetizing the fact that they're important.
When it's not always raining, there'll be days like this. When there's no one complaining,
You're good to me.
days like this. My mama told me
way faster.
there'll be days like this.
So you talked about how AI can increase prosperity, both of the individual and of the country. Go dark with me for a second. You are a truth teller, what should we worry about AI? How can it go wrong?
Well, it could go wrong in lots of ways. But again, there I would say we need to absorb a lot of risk there, because it's either going to go right and wrong for us, or it's going to go right and wrong for, for China, which we're in a competition. At the very least, we're in high competition.
What about for the individual?
No decision is without risk. And the risk we have to absorb here is going long on this, because it's not like we're not doing this in a vacuum. We are going to be the dominant player, or China's going to be the dominant player, and there will just be very different rules depending on who wins. And we cannot rely on anyone else to do this in our network of allies, because Europe has given up on technology. And actually, the Arab and non-Arab Middle East are closest to what you see at AI adoption. But de facto, we are by far the leader of our coalition. So it's like when people are worried about surveillance, it's not, honestly, of course, there are huge dangers there. But, it's like you will have far fewer rights if America's not in the lead. And I'll tell you the other risk that, again, I think it doesn't get enough attention. Again, what portion of the wealth creation is available to the average person? I'm pretty sure we're in our infancy. So in a world where Palantir could grow 10x, what does that mean to the person on the factory floor? How much are their real wages going to grow? Like, and if the answer is, 5% roughly at inflation, can you blame them for not being upset? And so, I think the primary risk of AI is social instability. Like the person.
And what form will that take?
Pretty crazy populist movements that obviously make no sense. I don't know. We're gonna make the government is gonna run grocery stores.
Are you worried about violence, indolence?
Well, dysfunction and then violence. Like you talk to European leaders, and they will literally look you in private and tell you negative GDP isn't a problem because the quality of our revenue is going up. They believe this. This is clearly wrong. It will not work. It's going to lead to violence, indolence. It's going to lead to everything you don't want. And okay, so then the American version is U.S. builder, highly educated builder who's asking technical, proximate questions are likely to do well. What about everyone here? How well does your camera person do?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we've talked about who will benefit from this prosperity, but what occupations, what types of businesses should be freaking the hell out?
Okay, let me give you the what you again, because I think the actual who should not be freaking out is pretty crazy to most people. The thing about the commodity nature of LLMs is it commodifies general knowledge. My advice to people around here is, there's a couple schools you should go to if you get into. Yale's one, Stanford's one. There's some schools you maybe should go to. Otherwise, go to the cheapest school and come to Palantir, or just come here. That's my honest advice. So to people, like family members, others, ever. So I pick on Yale because it's a crazy strong, especially for humanities. Almost everyone I work with that writes is a Yale grad. So it's a very, very strong school. But if you are the kind of person that would have gone to Yale, would have kind of classically high IQ, and you have generalized knowledge, but it's not specific, you're effed. If, on the other hand, you have specific domain knowledge, like how do I actually bend the metal of the hull on a ship? How do I actually write a script that allows me to target terrorists in Palantir? How do I impute the problem in this complicated device that's going wrong that otherwise would be fixed by a Japanese engineer while being a high school grad? How do I put the cement in a factory with such precision that you can build a factory like it was built in Taiwan in America? How do I do anything with deep, specific, particularly what's considered vocational training? Those people are going to make a lot more money simply because you can turn it any way you want. But at the end of the day, within a relative rapid amount of time, you will get paid downstream of the value you create.
So an electrician is going to be a lot better off than a lame Yale grad.
The Yale grad will have to learn something specific.
Domain expertise.
Domain expertise.
What dark forces are you worried about getting their hands on AI?
There are a lot of dark forces. And I just want to keep repeating, it's like,
Are you more concerned about like?
No, I'm much more concerned that we fail in America and that we don't dominate, and therefore there's like a lame UN-driven discussion about human rights that obviously only serves people who like somehow want to live in a world that doesn't work.
Something that's always baffled me, you know, everyone in Silicon Valley, a lot of moguls are building bunkers. What do they know that we don't? What do they fear that we maybe should?
I think they have the same fears you do. They just have more money. People who do well in Silicon Valley are more mathematically adept than they may realize or than other people and have an ability to operate. And so again, if you just take odds, you know, it's like, you know, a lot of, like if you, it's no different. I bet you a lot of hedge funders have these, just like you're doing a regression. But like, you know, it's like I remember I end up talking to political people and I was like, you know, it's like when you talk to campaigns, they're like, we have a 25% chance of losing. And they're like, and then they're off drinking champagne. And anyone in tech is like, you have a 25% chance of non-recoverable death. So it's a different, I mean, a lot of this is just mathematical.
Well, so while we're on that, in Silicon Valley, they talk about the P-doom, the probability that super intelligent AI is going to end us all.
I mean, a lot of, okay, you know what, I'm happy to talk about anything that, like, I think.
Do you have a P-doom?
I worry much more about we lose the race. Like, again, I'm very culturally specific in a way that maybe, you know, not everyone is. I think the chance of American survival goes, the chance of world survival goes up as America becomes stronger and more dominant.
But do you worry about AI outrunning any of us? Any state?
Okay, but yeah, but I also worry about the ceiling falling. Like, I like, again, there's an odds question. My primary specialization is what can you build software that's going to make America, its allies, industry, and military dominant? And I believe that if you do it, the third, fourth derivative of a lot of these questions go away.
Palantir's beat the analysts' estimates 21 quarters in a row, and you just had a great forecast, and yet your stock got hammered. What is it the markets are missing?
But honestly, hammered is a little, I think we're up something like 180. I don't know what we're up. I mean, I don't track it, but the market price has been more accurate than the analyst price. So I would invert it. It's like, what does the market understand that the analysts can't understand? And I would say what the market has historically understood with that many, not all analysts, the analysts want to do what I would call, I don't know, the journalists that you don't hire do. They've got a frame. That frame is the frame that was developed in the 50s.
So thinking too small, too rigid, too narrow.
So yes, but then there's a thing. That frame does not allow you to disambiguate between weak, medium, weak, strong, and baller product. Weak, medium, strong, baller culture. Weak, medium, and to the extent, and
you're saying you're baller.
I mean, that's what the market seems to be saying. I don't know. I'm just modest over here. You say the analysts care about X. What I'm saying is way upstream of that are assumptions that they control that at the end of the day come down to who they like and don't like.
And you're saying they don't like you.
Well, of course they don't like me. You know why they didn't like me? Because, and it's not just in fairness, not the analysts, honestly. I actually, in some ways, aligned with analysts because it was like, here I am, somebody who should be, you know, like whatever, should not be where I am. I'm having a lot of fun, but mostly. We have the most baller, interesting company on the planet. I'm not ashamed of that. We're rolling out. We're defending Western values. We are completely meritocratic. I'm not the person that should be having this much fun. And that annoys many journalists, not all. It annoys many academics, almost all. It annoys all sorts of purveyors of dysfunction because they want to sit, again, I think the average, you know, Ivy League grad voting for this mayor is highly annoyed that their education is not that valuable. And the person down the street who knows how to drill for oil and gas, who's moved to Texas, has a more valuable profession. And I think that annoys the fuck out of these people.
When you talk about politics, you sound like a reluctant Trumper. What would Democrats need to do to get you back?
What I've been telling Democrats, and not just Democrats, established shape people in Europe, where I get a lot of calls, and all over the world, is you first of all, the idea that somehow it's a God-given right of people of widely divergent cultures to come to our culture, and here I mean America, but I've given this advice for the last 20 years is not only inane, it goes against actual empirical experience, and none of your voters want it. And if you enforce, if you make this into some kind of bigotry, like we have to take everyone or we're a bigot, they're going to vote for people who actually are bigoted or not. And then I would say to my Democratic friends, also of which I still have, I hope many, you have to grow a spine, because a lot of these people actually agree with me in private. Do you know the percentage of Democrats who know that nothing Mondani's saying can ever work is very high?
Just elected mayor here in New York.
Great. And they all, and like, if you talk to them in private, they'll be like, yeah, that can never work. Okay, sorry, you asked a question, I'll give you an answer. We're in a world where you have to start speaking up. If someone is saying something you know can never work, and let's just take it, there's a reason in this election why the people who voted for him are disproportionately are not actually aligned with underclass voters. Underclass voters would have voted for Cuomo.
So who do you think should be speaking up? Who's not?
Everybody who agrees with me in private. I run around, I get yelled at all the time for Ukraine, ICE, Israel, and generally telling the truth, which I would call, okay, great. I get yelled at in private, in public, in family settings here, and in business section. And I've had customers say, hey, I don't want to work with you because any of those views are all of the above. Tell you what, I also have a lot of people are like, yeah, I agree with you. I just could never say that. Like, especially in Europe, what I get is,
so you're saying more people should be more candid?
No, I'm just saying, hey, no, I'm saying if you're not candid, you're going to get these results.
How worried are you about the Nick Fuentes wing of MAGA?
Well, first of all, I feel like I'm much more qualified to critique what has been my own party, although I've historically, Palantir's been the most anti-woke company. And like one of the things it's really crazy when people are like attacking us online and like, you say that now. We've been saying a lot of things that would have gotten you fired or put out of business for 20 years, including meritocracy, borders, use violence to not do neocon bullshit for 20 years and saying it when it wasn't popular. I think almost all of these movements are downstream from the fact that the people who sign up for these things that are like obviously not sensible do not believe they're going to participate in this society economically. And
well, let's be specific. So the anti-Semitism is one of your signature issues.
Actually, honestly, again, that's how people frame it. How about stupid discrimination, of which anti-Semitism is a form?
Okay.
So
stipulate to that. Nick Fuentes is a part of the Republican conservative movement that's getting increasing attention, has increasing attention, increasing voice. How concerned are you about that, and what does that tell you?
It's again, you always have to disambiguate concern and do you have a legitimate, like I have a legitimate, I'll answer your question, but I have a completely legitimate, authentic voice in the progressive democratic movement because that's been my whole life. And so I feel like when I'm screaming about that, they really should listen, even if they don't. When, I'm probably just at this point an independent who admires what Trump has done on many things. And I think anybody who's not deranged would acknowledge these things, and sure would I, so I think I don't have the credibility to start throwing a hissy about what happens in the Republican Party. And I'll also say both parties, and again, let me just go to the party where I have more credibility, like the way in which the Democrats just completely neglect males. Like there is nothing wrong, and it's admirable to be a somewhat to high testosterone male. And it's like you have the general vibe in the Democratic Party that it's like there's something wrong. I don't know. Like I just like, yeah, there's some way in which I don't find it very appealing as a dude. I don't think most dudes do. It's a huge problem, and you can't address it. My primary issue on political stuff is not exactly in being slightly unfair to your question. I think the primary issue for America is, do we have a closed border? At this point, I'm kind of a single issue voter. It's like, is the border closed or is it open? Like, Europe is an unmitigated disaster because of like unfettered, stupid migration.
Of all the people you've met, who would make the best president? Who do you think should be the next president?
The president that will legitimately, credibly say the border's staying closed, or there'll be common sense cultural standards used on top of just pure IQ, and the president that can really, really credibly fight for workers. So wait, sorry.
That sounds like the current Vice President J.D. Vance.
I'm just gonna, you asked a question, I'm giving you an answer. The way I would judge it, the way I would judge it is, who is the person who actually believes and will implement things that make working class Americans healthier and wealthier? And yeah.
That sounds like Vice President J.D. Vance, raised in Appalachia. Do you like him? Do you think he should be president?
You're asking lots of political questions, and I obviously support a lot of what the president does. I'm just going to say, you asked a question, I get an answer, and I'll tell you, to go back to your other questions, the problem on the Democratic side is, if you're honest and private, it's now a party repping people with non-domain specific knowledge who are kind of and not the working class.
Is there someone you'd like to see as the leader on that side?
But anyone who reps this, like, I'm not, it's like, for me, it's the issues. I like, again, it's like, I know it's kind of like, I don't think you have to, a politician has to connect with the people, but I'm not a politician, nor is it a job for me to be one. I connect with the two issues. When I would say it's basically, is it what's going to happen to the working class, and is the border closed, which is basically the same issue.
So there was a biography of you that just came out.
Yep.
You had a lot of cooperation. On balance, was very positive to you. You're worth 17 billion or 18 billion, but most people don't realize that you came from very little. You told me a story about a jewelry store in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. You grew up in the Philadelphia suburbs. There was a landlord there who owned a jewelry store. Do tell.
Well, it's in the book, and honestly, there's so many stories I would not have told, not because, I don't know. But in any case, my mom was totally fucked. Someone helped her. I paid them back.
And that person was a landlord, gave her and you a place to live. And they still own a jewelry store. And how did you?
I just buy a lot of stuff from them.
To this day.
Yeah.
And what is there for others to learn from that?
Very few people help you. And it's like her, the helping my mom, Mrs. Schneider, kind of helped me. A bunch of people. In general, people don't help you, which is totally okay. But the ones that do are special.
And something that Palantir is doing is you have a fellowship now for high school students, people without degrees, without credentials. You just tried the inaugural class. What did you learn from that? And are you going to do more of that?
I learned there's a lot of very talented people who would be better off learning domain-specific things than being indoctrinated at quasi-elite schools that don't value them. I've learned, and I hope that other people will copy this. And we're going to do more and more. It's good for the nation. It's great for Palantir.
And so you don't necessarily have to go to college to be successful. And it sounds like you're going to invest more in vocational training, high school training.
Well, yeah, we probably should do that too. But first of all, we just kicked it off. We were the first company, I think, to do this. I think other people, we've had actually nations. The interesting thing is, we have a number of nations call us, like at the national level, and saying, "Hey, we want to learn from this." Is it outside
from the high school program?
Yeah, one of the more fascinating things is, I can't give details, but we have like a nation state saying, "Could you come over and teach us how to do this?"
And are you going to do it?
Yeah, of course.
And what are you going to teach them, or what is the secret?
Well, it's selection. How do you select? How do you train? How do you provide? What we're doing with them, by the way, it's not indoctrination. That's really interesting. People think we're just like, you come here and you learn, there's only one way to do something ideologically. No, we're exposing them to a wide swath of kind of core.
Because there's like a Western Civ element to it.
Yeah, but it's like Western Civ, and then we have a lot of people actually who've built things coming in. So we've had a lot of ex-Palantarians, current Palantarians. I don't know. Some of the people may not want to be named, like titans of industry. Like you'd be a perfect person. Come in. What does it mean to be a journalist? What does it mean to manage journalists? What does it mean to build a company? What are the assumptions? What have I learned? What does it mean to be selective? I mean, like we want, and then like what you won't hear, by the way, we have like very prominent establishment progressives. Like we have, like we just want to. I would say one of the things that I'm pretty adamant about is I actually care less about ideology and more about is this person at the pinnacle of their success.
So as we say goodbye here, you just turned 58. You look a lot less. You just put on this skiing gear. What is your latest longevity hack?
You have to do technical Norwegian style cardiovascular training. Look that up. It's a longer story, but the normal cardiovascular training is basically at a certain level, not so valuable.
And just some framing, bracketing, as you would say, for our viewers. So Norway has by far the most medals in the Winter Olympics. And your theory is that it's because of this kind of training.
Well, it's not just because of that, but I think if you did a regression of all humans with VO2s above 90, you would find 98% were Norwegian. And there's probably a genetic element, but there's the way that they train, which is basically being very careful about when you're in zone 1 and zone 4 and not being in zone 2. And then people should just look it up with that. And then what I've changed now is every second or third day I do pure strength. And I used to do just that and kind of endurance strength, but I think that really helps. And then I do like, I think something meditative, like I do Tai Chi every day. I think those are
That's
the
a Chinese martial art. How does that change your life?
Well, if you're an entrepreneur doing something that like elicits cortisone, you want something that rebalances your like softer and harder energy. And it does that. And it helps with sleep a lot.
You told me that you looked at me and you said, I've been sleeping more. How much do you sleep?
I mean, I'm primarily a creative human. My best work is done if I get 8 hours sleep. I can't always do that because I'm traveling and it's hard, but I really strive for 8 hours quality sleep because what I notice is I just feel better. My brain works better. And yeah.
Alex Karp, thanks for mixing it up with the Axios show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Palantir. That dude is obviously on some shit. Like, he's way too all over the place. You know what I mean? Of course he's selling this shit. You know, he's not weird, but he's weird. I don't like Palantir. We got a Palantir here. They're totally fine.
All right, kids. In March of 1936, a photographer by the name of Dorothea Lange was taking pictures in Nipomo, California, when she came across the woods of vegetables and birds that the children had killed. Plus, she had just sold the tires from her cars to buy food. Lange would later say, I saw and approached the hungry and desperate mother as if drawn by a magnet, and then took a picture of her and her family. That photo came to be known as Migrant Mother and still symbolizes the hunger, poverty, and hopelessness endured by so many Americans during the Great Depression. Now, it's been 90 years since, and these United States continue to use images to express the desperate needs of Americans.
What you mean it ain't working? Run it again. This is my food. I need this food.
Ma'am, it keeps declining. It says the
They
account's
took my
inactive.
EBT. Y'all just gonna let me starve? I got kids at home.
See what's going on.
That's fake. You mean to tell me nobody was walking around in the background of that Walmart wearing suspenders with assless chaps? Get real. It's AI slop used by racists depicting black women complaining about losing their SNAP benefits and or selling them for cash. This, of course, is taking place while supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits are in jeopardy during and after the ongoing government shutdown, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Y'all hear me? Because of this government shutdown, they telling me I can't use my EBT in November. I got 7 kids with 7 men. 7! And that's the taxpayer's responsibility, okay?
I'll include a link to a video below explaining how to recognize AI like this for what it is. Not for you though, for Fox News. One of their culture news writers didn't notice that Sora is being used for the sake of rage bait. They fell for it, changed their headline, updated the editor's note, but not before Fox News contributor Brett Cooper went on her YouTube channel and said, that is her, the not real woman's, responsibility. It is not the American taxpayers' fault that you have 7 baby daddies who will not step up and help you pay the grocery bills. Whether conservatives actually believe what's created with clankers is real or not doesn't matter in this case, because since 1936, a stereotypical welfare recipient went from a rural American white woman displaced by the Dust Bowl to this.
Right now, it's their constituents, a lot of them that in some of these inner cities that's going to need SNAP to survive, and they're getting a lot of calls, and the pressure is going to be put on them. A lot of people need to go back to work. A lot of young men that are on SNAP that should be working.
Inner city citizens who vote Democrat and aren't willing to work. So, in Tommy Tuberville's dog whistles there, he made sure to be inclusive enough to mention men on SNAP who need to work as a wink and a nod to the welfare state destroying the black nuclear family thing that Republicans complain about but never did anything for. If you didn't know, Tommy Tuberville is a U.S. Senator out of Alabama, a state where 14 to 15% of the population relies on SNAP benefits and ranks 40-something in job opportunities, happiness, and education. Kind of seems like we all got to watch who we elect into office. Ain't that right?
And today, I will announce that I will be the future governor of the great state of Alabama.
That's double the Tubbers. One thing that I love about my channel is that someone watching right now is wondering if that weirdo Wiggins spent an unnecessary amount of time saving sound bites from a mediocre ex-football coach turned politician in particular for a video that's supposed to be about handouts from the government. And that's an oddly specific yet accurate question that I'm having you ask in the script that I wrote. Yeah, we'll focus on Tuberville, seeing how one single senator can hold up hundreds of military nominations and promotions. Him. So you don't even have to imagine what an ignorance of elected officials has tried to do to our social safety net this season, which should be called the fall of Tubervilles. When the longest government shutdown in American history began last month in October, the Trump administration initially said it would not fund the SNAP program during said shutdown. After 2 federal judges deemed their refusal to provide the benefits to be unlawful, the administration said it will provide partial payments only. Then 4547 begged the Supreme Court to stop the court orders requiring payment of full November SNAP benefits. The highest court in the land, who get their munchies for free and for a lifetime, gave them what they wanted and temporarily blocked food aid payments to 42 million Americans. Not only that, but when I was about to record this episode, I saw that Trump officials demanded that states undo the work that they already started doing to send full food assistance. All along, Republicans have been blaming Democrats for the government shutdown, despite controlling the House, Senate, and presidency. With that said, it's not like the GOP hasn't been chomping at the bit to get rid of food stamps.
1.3
food stamps.
trillion goes to food stamps.
Yes.
Now, if we need to start cutting, and you know that those groups going to start looking at that, people got to go back to work. We need to take care of the elderly, the veterans, people with mental with illnesses, but everybody else got to go back to work. We're not going to make it.
You go back to work, and also that's all the process. The ones pushing that are all the food companies on the ultra processed food.
He has said this nonsense before. That interview was from last year, and yes, the ultra-processed foods is unfortunately all the food that I like, said Steve Bannon, a man who looks like his first meaningful relationship was with Little Debbie. And you would hope that the guy who has stock in McDonald's would know that people who receive SNAP benefits do work. I mean, McDonald's is one of the employers with the largest estimated number of SNAP recipients. Besides, the average McDonald's employee is a 23-year-old white woman, a Sweeney. See how quick his argument tumbles? When 2 Alabama Chick-fil-A's, a transphobe of the Lord's Chicken, closed back in August of 2021, those restaurants said it was due to a hiring crisis with far less job applicants or people not showing up for their interviews. A staffing crisis for a limited time from both high school and university students returning back to school and football/holiday season quickly approaching, they said. Tuberville took that as an opportunity to say The Biden administration continues incentivizing people to sit on the sidelines instead of encouraging them to rejoin the workforce. He might have been referring to a $300 a week temporary federal subsidy as part of Biden's American Rescue Plan for those who lost their jobs. The thing about that is, even though the emergency federal unemployment insurance benefits were supposed to last until September of that year, Republican Governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey, announced in May that the state would opt out of them as of June 19th. So why were adults not filling positions at Chick-fil-A? Well, a CNBC report from 2021 noted that 36% of unemployed workers had rejected job offers because the salary was too low and 35% because of concerns about COVID-19. Tuberville retweeted this chart featuring price differences from the end of 2019 to May of 2024 for McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, and Taco Bell, claiming Bidenomics has turned the dollar menu into the $5 menu. And a year and a half later, those prices are either the same or worse. I'm not even going to fact check that. In June of 2023, he wrote, "Great to see Alabama receive crucial funding to boost ongoing broadband efforts," sharing an article about the $1.4 billion going to Alabama for expanded broadband access. And by now, you know where this is going. Tommy Tuberville just happened to be one of the 30 Republicans who voted against the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. The other Senate Republican also voted against it. I don't think he reads what comes across his desk.
You know, anything that we can do for the future of our young people, because they're our number one commodity, we need to have more kids. We need to have an opportunity to do that. And I thought this was the right thing to do. But
IVF is used to have more children, and right now IVF services are paused at some of the clinics in Alabama. Aren't you concerned that this could impact people who are trying to have kids?
Well, that's for another conversation. No, I'd have to look at the entire bill and how it's written. I have not seen it.
Supreme Court decision.
Well, I know that, but I'd have to look. I haven't looked at it. But this is a state issue.
Women aren't going to be able to have IVF treatments already in some places.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
What do you say to them?
Unfortunate.
A sitting U.S. senator called children a commodity. He didn't seem to understand how IVF would give him the more kids that he wants and confused a bill for a Supreme Court decision. He struggled with the concept that white nationalists are racist. He wanted to simply call them Americans, like these former D-average students can't be all the above.
You said a white nationalist is an American, but a white nationalist is someone who believes horrific things. Do you really think that's someone who should be serving in the military?
Well, that's just a name that has been given. I mean,
It's not.
Listen,
It's a real definition. There's real concerns
so if
about
you're going to do away
extremism.
with most white people in this country out of the military, we got a huge problem.
According to Rolling Stone, one Republican said this about Tuberville: "I do not believe that he is a racist at all. I really believe that he maybe doesn't have an understanding of the English language." And again, all the above.
Democratic Party, they have a majority. They could stop this crime today. Some people say, well, they're soft on crime. No, they're not soft on crime. They're pro-crime. They want crime. They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. They are not owed that.
A dog whistle louder than a truck horn. He acknowledges what a majority party in power can do. And it's a no on repairing one group, but a yes to the big, beautiful bill to make America great again. He said that Trump's tariffs are the only shot at getting our country back. Tariffs have set U.S. farmers back. Could the federal government pay them with the money being made through tariffs? Would that essentially be giving them their money back? How is a stimulus or any of this not socialism? A $40 billion bailout was given to Argentina, and their president was dancing on stage at Mar-a-Lago in full view of people who are being denied Little Debbies by people who smile when their constituents lose benefits, like Little Debbie. Oh, and there's no way this man isn't dancing to different songs with different beats being played every 2 seconds. That's the only way his rhythm syncs up. A former college football coach, current U.S. senator, and future governor, probably definitely, who doesn't actually live in Alabama, is the face, well, a face that you should picture with this stop foreign aid so we can take care of our own, but doesn't mind children starving memes like this. Don't forget, he wants more kids, American kids. White American kids that aren't created via IVF and he doesn't have to feed. Imagine slashing SNAP, the program that helps children in the US not go hungry while sending billions in weapons to another country to kill other children. And of course, it's not just him. I found most of the clips I use in this episode when looking for a quote that I could have sworn came out of Tommy Tuberville's mouth.
But also with a mandatory minimum wage of $15, even the government says that nearly 4 million people will lose their jobs. And the people who lose their jobs first when you hike up the minimum wage are Black teenagers. So, you know, why does Joe Biden hate Black teenagers should be the question. Why does Joe Biden want to destroy all of these jobs?
It's worth a couple of losers scamming the system to make sure people in need don't go without. And sometimes it feels like in the US, it's the opposite. A few people scam, and we make sure many go without. Losers. Anybody else notice that white America hasn't been incentivized to stay on the sidelines after centuries of receiving the most handouts from the government? The Naturalization Act provided citizenship. The Indian Removal Act eliminated competition, and multiple Homestead Acts gave them land and housing. Soon after the migrant mother photos were published in the San Francisco News, the US government announced it was sending 20,000 pounds of food to the Pea Pickers campsite. However, the mystery woman was no longer around to benefit from it. Decades later, Florence Owens Thompson revealed herself as a migrant mother. Turns out, she was Native American, not white. Linda Taylor, so-called welfare queen, was racially complex. It's interesting how this woman's identity led to Democrats lending a helping hand, and this woman's image led to Republicans limiting what's available. Bill Clinton changed welfare as we know it, and as we speak, the Dems are making a deal to end the government shutdown. They caved. Other countries will see us as the ones in need. That is, if we don't donate to local food banks, volunteer, organize, check in with neighbors, make community meals, look up mutual aid groups. However, none of this on for robust SNAP benefits. Also, vote. Make sure that the Tommy Tubervilles of the world aren't elected, and we're gonna be all right.
Yeah, that's some hard times right there. That happened when we realized there weren't receiving food stamps and things like that. You know, if you have been listening to us, we've been always talking about stocking up and saving. You know what I mean? It's very, very important. So hopefully, it'll work itself out. Hopefully. It doesn't seem like it right now, but it might. We'll see what happens. Not you gotta put
is now moving to use shelter as a weapon as he finalizes plans to push nearly 200,000 Americans back into the streets in America. My name is Brittany Page, and this is the Page Perspective. All the while, by the way, he is building detention camps for the unhoused. That's right. And if you think I'm being camps, I want to remind you all that this is something Donald Trump said he would do when he got back into the White House.
Under my strategy, working with states, we will ban urban camping wherever possible. Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated. Many of them don't want that. We'll give them the option. We will then open up large parcels of inexpensive land, bring in doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists, and create 10 cities where the homeless can be relocated and their problems identified. But we'll open up our cities again, make them livable and make them beautiful.
Well, I guess this is one campaign promise that he's keeping. And we're going to get to the building of the camps in rural Utah, which is happening right now. But first, we need to talk about the gutting of housing aid. and the consequences for hundreds of thousands of people. This reporting from the New York Times dives into the funding outline released by the Trump administration's Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, showing how they want to steer the more than $3.9 billion in continuum of care funds, which they note is the main source of money to fight homelessness. They want to steer that to programs that punish those in poverty, taking funding from evidence-based programs and directing those funds instead to policing encampments and arresting people who are sleeping outside, as endorsed by the Supreme Court decision in Grants Pass v. Johnson, which gave the green light for cities to arrest and fine people who are forced to sleep outside with nowhere to go, a decision that we have talked about extensively on this channel. And briefly, because this comes up all the time in response to videos that I do on this channel on homelessness, we're often sold this false representation of the choices before us when it comes to solving the homelessness crisis. We have the choice between the conservative approach, crime and punishment, forced treatment or institutionalization, or nothing. That's what people say. Oh, so you want to do nothing? No, of course not. We want to keep the billions of dollars in programs that are evidence-based, like Housing First, an approach that the Veterans Administration has used successfully to reduce homelessness, and that large cities like Houston have used as well, where homelessness is down 63% since they implemented their Housing First policies in 2012. But conservatives come in and say, no, something is uniquely wrong and bad about people who end up on the street, and they shouldn't be treated like human beings who deserve shelter, who deserve robustly funded programs that can assist them as they work to rebuild their lives. And that's what we have here in Donald Trump's new policy, where, according to this reporting, nearly 200,000 people are at risk of being pushed back into homelessness. Quote, while President Trump has long pledged to pursue tougher homelessness policies, such as camping bans and treatment mandates, the long-anticipated document outlines changes that go much deeper and faster than expected, by cutting aid for permanent housing by 2/3 next year. The plan risks a sudden end of support for most of the people the continuum places in such housing nationwide, beginning as soon as January. All are disabled, a condition of the aid, and many are 50 or older. The document does not explain how they would find housing. Quote, there are people who have been living in those units for 5 years, 8 years, said Ann Olivia, the chief executive of the National Alliance to End Homelessness, an advocacy group. Quote, no one can wrap their head around the idea that HUD is about to kick 170,000 vulnerable people out of their homes. People don't know what's about to hit them. I've used the term 5-alarm fire a lot since Trump took office, but reading that paragraph for the first time sent my heart rate through the roof. Homelessness is already at an all-time high. Many millions of people are already living under rent-burdened conditions, where more than 30% of their income is eaten up by rent and utilities. And when I say many millions, I mean about half of renter households are in this situation. And yet, the Trump administration comes through and disregards the research, the work of experts, and the evidence, and says, let's just send people away to detention camps, as he stated he would do during his campaign. Zero concern for the root causes of homelessness, zero concern for people on the margins, zero concern for people on the brink. Quote, in cutting funds
All right, I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that, family. Really, truly. The things kind of need to be adjusted a little bit, but it's working now. Let me see. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Where we at? Okay, yeah. Trump and his damn
buy the land and build the camp. And I wonder if that money could be better spent in other ways. Policies such as camping bans and treatment mandates, the long anticipated thousands of people. This reporting.
I'm sorry, Philly. I had some technical difficulties. I didn't have the hotspot on the counter correctly, so that's my fault. Apologize for that. I'm gonna start it over. But yeah, basically, it's par for the course. What's happening right there with that? Trump, obviously, means what he says lately. Trying to go follow through with that. And basically, he wants to unhouse house somewhere out of sight, out of mind, from what I'm understanding. This sounds really bad, and this is like something I don't think anybody really wants. So, except for the NIMBY types and stuff like that. Just want to apologize. I'm back, so let's pray that it can keep going, because this is really important stuff. This is an unhoused community in everybody's state, and it can be coming to a state near you. Shit, it's pretty close to our state, so our mayor's talking out crazy shit, so maybe it can happen anytime.
From the New York Times dives into the funding outline released by the Trump administration's Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, showing how they want to steer the more than $3.9 billion in continuum of care funds which they note is the main source of money to fight homelessness. They want to steer that to programs that punish those in poverty, taking funding from evidence-based programs and directing those funds instead to policing encampments and arresting people who were sleeping outside, as endorsed by the Supreme Court decision in Grants Pass v. Johnson, which gave the green light for cities to arrest and fine people who are forced to sleep outside with nowhere to go, a decision that we have talked about extensively on this channel. And briefly, because this comes up all the time in response to videos that I do on this channel on homelessness, we're often sold this false representation of the choices before us when it comes to solving the homelessness crisis. We have the choice between the conservative approach, crime and punishment, forced treatment or institutionalization, or nothing. That's what people say. Oh, so you want to do nothing? No, of course not. We want to keep the billions of dollars in programs that are evidence-based, like Housing First, an approach that the Veterans Administration has used successfully to reduce homelessness, and that large cities like Houston have used as well, where homelessness is down 63% since they implemented their Housing First policies in 2012. But conservatives come in and say, no, something is uniquely wrong and bad about people who end up on the street, and they shouldn't be treated like human beings who deserve shelter, who deserve robustly funded programs that can assist them as they work to rebuild their lives. And that's what we have here in Donald Trump's new policy, where, according to this reporting, nearly 200,000 people are at risk of being pushed back into homelessness. Quote, while President Trump has long pledged to pursue tougher homelessness policies, such as camping bans and treatment mandates, the long anticipated document outlines changes that go much deeper and faster than expected by cutting aid for permanent housing by 2/3 next year. The plan risks a sudden end of support for most of the people the continuum places in such housing nationwide, beginning as soon as January. All are disabled, a condition of the aid, and many are 50 or older. The document does not explain how they would find housing. Quote, there are people who have been living in those units for 5 years, 8 years, said Ann Olivia, the chief executive of the National Alliance to End Homelessness, an advocacy group. Quote, no one can wrap their head around the idea that HUD is about to kick 170,000 vulnerable people out of their homes. People don't know what's about to hit them. I've used the term 5-alarm fire a lot since Trump took office, but reading that paragraph for the first time sent my heart rate through the roof. Homelessness is already at an all-time high. Many millions of people are already living under rent-burdened conditions, where more than 30% of their income is eaten up by rent and utilities. And when I say many millions, I mean about half of renter households are in this situation. And yet, the Trump administration comes through and disregards the research, the work of experts, and the evidence, and says, let's just send people away to detention camps, as he stated he would do during his campaign. Zero concern for the root causes of homelessness, zero concern for people on the margins, zero concern for people on the brink. Quote, in cutting funds for permanent housing by about 2/3, she noted, the administration channels remaining money to programs that under federal law can serve people for no more than 2 years. That shift to temporary aid is essentially saying that people really don't need housing aid. They should be self-sufficient in 2 years, she said. Quote, there's nothing I can do to tweak the program model to get people to afford rent when rent is so high. She called the cuts in long-term subsidies, quote, catastrophic for tenants and landlords alike, and said local governments and charities could not make up the aid. And where have we seen this before? Food aid, right? Food banks have been struggling to keep up with demand. Trump had no concern for the millions of Americans who rely on SNAP benefits to feed themselves, feed their families, and was content to weaponize hunger to force the Democratic Party into submission and make a deal to reopen the government. And now he's weaponizing shelter. Charities cannot make up for the gutting of this government aid. They just can't. And we have the money because this money is being redirected to programs that punish rather than help, that are reactive rather than proactive, that mandate that there is something uniquely wrong and bad about people in poverty rather than recognizing the systemic failures, the inflation, the wages not keeping up with rental prices, the many millions of renters who are rent burdened, the number of homeless individuals who are working multiple jobs to stay afloat in temporary living conditions. But Donald Trump doesn't care about any of that. He wants to be perceived as tough. And what makes you tough? Throwing people away. And that's where the camps come in. The camps the Trump administration plans to build. I don't know if you saw this headline from the Utah News Dispatch, but think about the chaos in the country that a headline like this doesn't continue to make waves and grab the public's attention until these plans are stopped. Quote, Utah officials unveil site for 1,300-bed homeless campus after long, secretive search. 15.8-acre Salt Lake City-owned property is west of Rose Park near North Salt Lake boundary after a long, secretive search. And there are several concerning things about this article. Quote, Niederhauser, a former Utah Senate president who has worked as a real estate broker, told Utah News Dispatch in an interview on Wednesday that he started working on the concept of a homeless campus just months after Governor Spencer Cox first appointed him as a state homeless coordinator more than 4 years ago. The goal, he said, was not only to expand Utah's homeless shelter capacity, but also create a long-term solution as the state faces population growth pressures. Quote, I started looking at possibilities where we could expand, and I wanted to have a property so that we had a place for a 50 to 100-year solution for the Salt Lake County area and region, Niederhauser said. And I knew early on that we were going to need to have a location that we could rely upon and expand as populations grow, as we deal with this very difficult problem for many years to come. I just didn't want the state to be having to look at different places every 5 or 10 years. We wanted a long-term solution. Now, implicit in all of this is the ongoing affordability concerns that are going to push many more people to homelessness, where this man will be ready with his remote prison to involuntarily transport and house people who are simply trying to survive poverty. And why isn't he talking about other solutions to an expanding affordability crisis that is going to create larger numbers of homeless people, right? Why isn't this man talking about what needs to be done to prevent expanding numbers of homeless people? He does talk about the cost of all of this, by the way. More than $30 million for annual operations and at least $75 million to buy the land and build the camp. And I wonder if that money could be better spent in other ways. And, you know where they are turning to get help with all this funding? The Utah legislature. If you live in Utah, is this where you want your tax dollars going? To build a prison for people experiencing the debilitating effects of poverty? They can't think of better ways to spend all this money, like keeping people housed. And on that issue of transportation to the remote detention center, quote, Niederhauser acknowledged that transportation to the fairly remote area is going to be an issue, but we've got a solution for that. And that's having a shuttle system, he said, adding that it will cost money. But state officials plan to expand the existing shuttle system that transports people to and from the existing homeless resource centers in Salt Lake City and South Salt Lake. Quote, we've also been in talks with the Utah Transit Authority, he added. Quote, I think there's some long-term desire to have even some busing into that area. These conservatives try to sell us on these ideas as though they are our only option. And we know that's a lie because we know what works. While they're wasting all of this time and money and energy on building a prison, they could be robustly funding programs that assist people who are either languishing in the streets right now or preparing to be pushed into homelessness themselves. This is all a natural consequence of the criminalization of homelessness that has been endorsed by the Supreme Court, and by the way, greenlit by various Democratic leaders in blue cities across the country who refuse to grapple with the tough reality that is solving the homelessness crisis and choose instead to ally themselves with this toxic and inhumane approach to punish people in poverty. We know this isn't about helping people. When we look at quotes like those featured in the New York Times reporting on this, by the way, an additional article, quote, with outdoor sleeping banned, removal to the edge of town may become the only way some homeless Utahns can avoid jail. Planners say the facility will also hold hundreds of mentally ill homeless people under court-ordered civil commitment, and the effort will include an accountability center for those with addictions. Quote, an accountability center is involuntary, okay? You're not coming in and out, Randy Shumway, chairman of the State Homeless Services Board, said in an interview. Utah will end a harmful, quote, culture of permissiveness, he said, and guide homeless people, quote, towards human thriving. Much about Utah's plans remain unclear, including the details of involuntary treatment, what a proposal calls, quote, work-conditioned housing, and whether the residents will sleep in buildings or tents, but supporters call it a model. The reason why the details of the treatment aren't there, this isn't about treatment. This is about punishment. This is about removing visible poverty from the streets and finding a place to contain it away from society, just like Donald Trump said he would in his campaign video. And if you're watching this and you're not one of those evil billionaires, and I guess if you are, let's just pause for a moment and say, hello, evil billionaire. Please become a channel member where you can hate watch all of my content and even fund more content to hate watch, please. Thank you. But if you're not one of those billionaires, you should feel allied with every single person on the street. Why? You are much closer to being them than you are any one of these billionaires who hoard their wealth in the face of widespread human suffering. One accident, one catastrophic death in the family, one surprise, devastating health condition. And I don't say this to create a fear that paralyzes. We need to face the reality that is financial precarity while at the same time allowing it to engender greater compassion for those who are struggling, rather than allowing those fears to be weaponized against the most vulnerable. When those people in power try to convince us that those people in the streets are there because they are weak or they made poor choices, we should reject that as the just world bullshit that it is. They are there because a system prioritizes the wealthy and the powerful. A system ignores stagnant wages that aren't keeping up with prices. A system that tells half of renter households who are rent burdened that they are doing something wrong. But there are more of us than there are of them, and we need to pay attention and stick together to fight these attempts to take us backward. Now is your chance to weigh in, so please share your comments on this video in the comment section below, or you can leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail at 202-656-1509 or send an email to info@thepageperspective.com. You can join the evil billionaires in supporting the channel as well by clicking the join button below for as little as $1.99 a month. You can also follow me on social media at Brittany E. Page on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. And as always, thank you so much for being here. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Yeah. Everybody, I used to tell everybody that they're just fucking one thing away from being outside of the street. You know, like I was. Just one step in that direction. What am I saying? No. I'm sorry.
More explosive early resignations are coming. It's a tinderbox. Morale has never been lower. Mike Johnson will be stripped of his gavel, and they will lose the majority before this term is out. Now, legacy media, cable news, I know I've been on your helmet for quite some time, but I'll tell you this right now. If anybody gets an exclusive to the moment they strip Mike Johnson's gavel, not only will I watch it, I will endorse the show. I will go live. I'll do a whole live for the gavel stripping. That's it. Matter of fact, I'll do 2 lives if his glasses fall off. Shout out to all the subscribers and the members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. My name is Reese Waters, and this is Who Raised Y'all, where we highlight those unique individuals going above and beyond to make society worse.
We have some breaking news. We'll come right back. A Fox News alert. The case against former FBI Director James Comey is getting dismissed. The judge ruling the appointment of interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan violated the Constitution. The judge also criticized the DOJ for allowing an FBI agent who viewed Comey's privileged materials to testify to the grand jury. Now, the judge also tossed the case against Letitia James.
You know, the kinds of people you'll see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates.
Sure, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal.
I want to talk to the manager.
I'm going to keep going on this. I'm not worried about someone who has been charged with a very serious crime.
Well, today, sorry, I don't have no change. You believe they left her out on the corner with a box of her things? No, I don't give the DEI hires. Yes, you was. Hey, hiring you was so out of pocket, they pressing charges. I ain't never heard of nothing like that. I mean, they done called us DEI, but I ain't never heard of pressing charges. You so unqualified. I told you call Annalise Keating. I ain't never seen nobody get laughed out of court like you did with James Comey and Letitia James. I ain't never seen, they didn't even laugh Roman Israel out of court. And I'm pretty sure they shot that movie while Denzel Washington was sleepwalking. I don't even think he remembers making it. But you know what, GOP? It gets worse. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who will retire from Congress in 42 days, announced the end of her House career Friday night in a manifesto of sorts that sounded many of the notes of concern we hear about President Trump's second term. Let's dispense with the caveats. MTG has never been representative of the House Republican Conference writ large. She clearly has a bone to pick with Trump and the leadership. MTG may have her eye on the governorship. That chatter picked up again over the weekend. She was also never a fan of Speaker Mike Johnson. Well, that just means she can see and hear. That's all that means. I'm pretty sure the only fan of Mike Johnson at this point is Covenant Eyes. MTG's 4-page note was stinging for House Republicans because the message rang true to so many in the House GOP. In fact, a few other GOP members messaged us over the weekend saying that they too are considering retiring in the middle of the term. Oh, let me find out. So MTG was a leader after all. She was in the retirement leadership. Apparently, she was in the retirement leadership. Well, look, don't let me stop you, GOP. Don't let me stop you. You know, as much as we enjoy your presence here in DC, I'm sure you miss back home in the middle of all those red states where the land votes. Here's one particularly exercised senior House Republican. The entire White House team has treated all members like garbage, all. And Mike Johnson has let it happen because he wanted it to happen. That is the sentiment of nearly all appropriators, authorizers, hawks, doves, rank and file. Doves? I heard of hawks. I ain't never heard of no doves. Y'all got pigeons over there too? I've seen a few birds. The arrogance of this White House team is off-putting to members who are run roughshod and threatened.
They don't even allow little wins like announcing small grants or even responding from agencies. Not even the high profile, the regular rank and file random members are more upset than ever. Members know they're going into the minority after the midterms. Oh, so y'all got polling too? Okay. Because it's funny, because it seems like it was only yesterday y'all were talking about the mandate. Wasn't it the mandate? They was just talking about the mandate, right? Like any pushback had to be George Soros funded operatives, right? I believe what was that? Mike Johnson and they all repeated the Hate America rally when millions of people hit the streets. Now they are resigned to going into the minority after the midterms. Tell me you lying without telling me you lying. You lying. More explosive early resignations are coming. It's a tinderbox. Morale has never been lower. Mike Johnson will be stripped of his gavel and they will lose the majority before this term is out. Now, legacy media, cable news, I know I've been on your helmet for quite some time, but I'll tell you this right now. If anybody gets an exclusive to the moment they strip Mike Johnson's gavel, not only will I watch it, I will endorse the show. I will go live. I'll do a whole live for the gavel stripping. That's it. Matter of fact, I'll do 2 lives if his glasses fall off. Of course, Johnson's team points out they have impossibly small margins and believe they're doing what they can with the hand they're dealt. But the idea that Republicans could lose their majority this Congress is no longer far-fetched. If Johnson were to lose another House Republican in the middle of this term to retirement, death, or illness, there's a decent chance that the GOP can end up in the minority at some point in 2026. Now I'm looking at y'all. No, I'm looking at all of you. All we need is one. All we need. Do I need to start reading resumes? Huh? I'm gonna start putting y'all resumes up on the projector like the Summer Jam screen. Okay, till we get one. It's been that bad. Now, MTG herself weighed in, fact check, true, but it's worse than people inside the bubble know when you talk to real Americans outside the wicked snow globe of Washington, D.C. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I appreciate all the work that you did tearing apart MAGA. We are grateful. Ain't gonna be too many of them wicked snow globes. Hey, now this is where I'm from. Ain't gonna be too many of them wicked snow globes. Unless you want to name names. If you want to name names, if you want to name the snow that's clouding up DC's globe, I'm with that. But we not just going, nah. Myself and many of my colleagues came courageously roaring into 2025 with legislation that matched the 2024 electoral mandate. There it is. Only to be totally sidelined by Johnson under full obedience of the White House. Executive orders are temporary. Q memes have not and obliterated the deep state, and my colleagues constantly trying to pass loyalty tests instead of demanding what is right won't help Americans pay their rent or stop corporations from buying homes, groceries, good-paying jobs, stop foreigners with visas from stealing their jobs. Of course, you got to get a little xenophobia in there. Stop American tax dollars from funding foreign wars and causes, or rebuild the value of the dollar. Passing effective legislation. Whoa. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I told you get in and out. You stayed around too long. Now Jasmine got you. Now she here now. You need to hear this.
Shocking announcement from Congresswoman Greene. What went through your mind when you first heard she was going to resign on January 5th?
You know what? Honestly, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You're on the other side of the president for 1 week and you can't take the heat. Imagine what it is to sit in my shoes, to not only be on the opposite side of him, but to have people like her who are constantly fanning the flames of hate. And imagine what those threats look like when you literally are someone like me. But at the end of the day, I know that I serve the people of Texas 30. And so my job isn't to be there and necessarily do whatever is going to make the president not be on my back, but instead is to focus on making sure that I can push forward with policies that are positive for Texas 30.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. You couldn't take a couple of weeks on the other side of Trump while expecting the rest of America to withstand this authoritarian takeover. That is pretty much what you're saying. You know, the people who love to call everybody else snowflakes. Yeah. And I'm looking all across the aisle at y'all, GOP. Y'all the ones I'm talking about right now, because y'all enabled all of this. So all this crying that I'm hearing right now, you know, it builds character. That's what they used to tell my daddy used to tell me. It builds character. It'll make you a man. And I can tell you this: some of y'all could use it. And by some, I mean all, regardless of gender. Because I tell you this, it ain't getting no better.
So, Tara, President Trump told NBC News in a phone interview on Saturday it's not going to be easy for her to revive her career in politics, but then he adds, I'd love to see that. And then hours later, he referred to her as a lowlife in a Truth Social post where he claimed the Republican Party has never been so united as it is right now. Which is it?
Well, it's whichever way the wind blows for Donald Trump. As we know, he can feel one way 1 hour and someone's in his ear, or he sees something the next hour and he changes. Look,
well, it is a point about loyalty, right? Because
Yes.
she's not the first one who has been tremendously loyal to him and found out it's not necessarily a two-way street.
Right, which is why I wonder why she's so shocked that it happened to her. No one is immune from Donald Trump turning on them. No one. He's done it to every person. He even turned on his loyal mentor, Roy Cohn, in the 80s, who basically built Donald Trump into the monster that he is today and taught him everything he knows. He turned on him. He would turn on his own children. So he is a malignant narcissist, and that's what he does. If you show one iota of independence from him, he turns around and threatens you and casts you aside, which is why I don't understand why so many Republicans continue to give their blind loyalty to him, because it never works out well for any of them.
That's right. This man done slammed low-life Republicans while touting party unity. And if that doesn't make any logical sense, just imagine how the rest of us with operable brains have received everything else we heard for the last decade. It sounded just like that. All of a sudden, oh, that's crazy. This man gonna stay consistent. Y'all didn't see enough when he embarrassed y'all in the Oval Office with Zohran Mamdani? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Republicans, after all of that work to make Mamdani the boogeyman in the midterms, then watching his press conference with Trump. Yep, that was pretty much it. That was so off-putting, I had to go get myself tested. Just from watching the press conference, I had to go get tested and make sure I had a clean bill of health going into the new year. Yeah. We got some people trying to defend it. The inverse is also true. Oh, the inverse is also true, as in all the things that Mamdani had said about Trump, and then he went into the Oval Office and what? Still called him a fascist. I didn't see the clip where Mamdani talked about what a great job Trump was going to do as president. I don't recall that clip. I don't recall the clip where Mamdani kept touching Trump's arm and talked about what a great job he did during the campaign. I don't recall that. I don't recall that at all. I don't recall the clip where the mushroom. Oh wait, that wasn't the mushroom. That was a different one. It was a different scenario I was thinking about. You know, like y'all wish y'all were involved in, cause I seen how many of y'all fleeing already. This is what the people that will be left have to deal with. But we done seen how many have already left skid marks in Congress. A record number of congressional lawmakers aren't running for re-election in 2026. That number currently stands at 10 senators and 41 House members. There are 22 retiring from public office, with the rest running for a different office. 16 looking to become governor of their state, 12 looking to make the jump from House to Senate, and one, Chip Roy, is looking to become his state's attorney general. That man desperate to get out of there. Attorney general. Yeah, no, I'm leaving. I'm leaving Congress. I'm leaving Congress. Well, it's a Foot Locker in my district. Need a manager. So I'm. You know, that was always been my calling. That has always, you know, ever since I would go in as a kid and the sneakers, the smell of the new sneakers, that has always been my calling to run a Foot Locker. So, you know, legislating just is really not my jam. Now here you see the list right here. There are more Republicans signaling their desire to exit Washington at 28 than Democrats at 23. Oh, what's that? What about the Democrats leaving? Because they don't want to work with y'all. Because they don't want to, would you want to work with you? Huh? Would you want to work with you? And also, let's also evaluate just how dysfunctional it has to be that you have control of all three branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial, and you have both houses of Congress. You have all three branches in both houses of Congress, and your party has more people voluntarily leaving. Yikes. Yeah, like Joni Ernst, yikes.
When you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits, 1.4 million, 1.4, they are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. For heaven's sakes, folks. Okay, no, but
well, there are multiple ways to die, right? There's the physical death, but there's also a way of like kind of dying on the inside. You know, the way Marco Rubio looks every time they show him behind Donald Trump speaking without a teleprompter. That kind of death on the inside.
AOC's low IQ. You give her an IQ test, have her pass like the exams that I decided to take when I was at Walter Reed. Those are very hard, they're really aptitude tests, I guess, in a certain way, but they're cognitive tests.
Marco will probably be stepping down by midterms because when S gets a little challenging for little Marco, he likes to run away. Remember, he contemplated resignation after he lost the Republican nomination for POTUS. He's just not built for this. It's all over his face. Oh, we saw it. We saw it. It's the same stuff that was on Caroline Leavitt's face when she got caught on camera as Donald Trump pivoted to talking about the hoax. Oh, yeah. Smells like shame.
She's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, you know, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden. You know, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. Yeah.
The Marco Rubio Guide to Survival is not going very well. It's become increasingly clear that Marco Rubio is Secretary of State in name only. Since taking over Foggy Bottom, Rubio has constantly appeared one or two steps behind the actions of President Donald Trump and tech mogul Elon Musk, popping up to explain, justify, or even double down on choices he probably wouldn't make if he was actually running the show. He's talking and posting online in a different voice, contradicting earlier policy views, and appears to have little control over the implementation of Trump's assault on the federal workforce. I can only imagine what would get done if Marco Rubio leaves. Then you stuck with Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi, Cash Patel. Actually, that sounds like a reality show. That sounds like a reality. Could they draft a memo? Just give them like 24 hours to draft a sensible memo alongside Trump and see if they can manage to do it. That would be interesting. And then if it looks like they're close, then you introduce Scott Bessent to go in there and throw his hands. Whoever. I would watch it. I would definitely watch that. Now, when it speaks to dysfunction as a party, I don't think we truly appreciate just how wide this gap is. In the morning, we got Patriots, huge move incoming. President Trump is preparing to drop the Healthcare Price Cuts Act as early as tomorrow, blowing up the corrupt Obamacare subsidy racket that funnels billions to big Democrats. Trump just cornered the Democrats. You know, I saw something like this before. I believe it was last week when they were all excited about Trump giving Mamdani his comeuppance. Let's see how that went. Just a few hours later, White House to delay healthcare proposal after significant congressional backlash. According to 2 White House officials, the announcement has been delayed, with one of those officials citing strong congressional backlash to Trump's proposed plan. Trump planned to make an announcement as early as Monday, proposing a framework to address healthcare costs, which included an extension of Obamacare subsidies. No way! Not Trump backing down to the rank and file. What does he think this is? The Epstein files? Confirmed. Trump White House is delaying an announcement on a healthcare plan. Will not be this week. This as Republican members of Congress, including senior members, express outrage at being left out of any process on what they all know is a critical issue affecting huge numbers of constituents. Anger is not just at the White House, but also at Speaker Johnson. This has been quickly rising, and the idea of a White House-only sudden healthcare plan has rank and file fuming at their leader. And many Republicans are extremely frustrated and puzzled by reports that the White House is expected to announce an extension of enhanced ACA subsidies. They feel the pivot makes no sense given GOP spent the entire shutdown fight arguing that the subsidies prop up insurance companies and are, in their view, bad policy. No, wait, let me get this straight. So y'all are mad that y'all spent all this time arguing one thing, and then he just went and completely did the exact opposite and is just going to do it on his own. Huh. It's almost like you're just becoming American citizens. It's like you're just become, you mean the same guy that said he was going to lower costs and canceled it by Christmas? You mean that guy decided to go the other way? You mean the guy who decides on a new tariff policy and rate every 2 weeks? You mean that guy decided to go the other way? That's fascinating. That's interesting. Well, you know, similar experiences breed empathy. So maybe you being left out and mocked and bullied and embarrassed and left holding the bag time and time and time again might build a bridge of understanding between you and your constituents that's been feeling this all year long. It actually might make you better congressmen and senators. It certainly will if you're on the left side of the aisle. But for right now, all I can say is best of luck to you. Best of luck, GOP. It is a hot mess. But what I can tell you this, though, I gave you some advice, but that advice is not free. If y'all could give to Lindsay Hadley, she trying to raise some money for at least get her some cab fare or something. We just can't have her walking around barefoot in DC. Yeah, it's ICE roaming around here. You know what they get into. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. It's Thanksgiving time, so you know what that means.
Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rice,
It also means a holiday sale over at thepeoplesgetup.com and reesewaters.com. Make sure you check the community tab for the code to use throughout the weekend. And for memes, you can send your friends and say it was yours. I know how y'all do. And of course, I'm thankful to all of you. So many of you guys have hit me up at admin at Reese Waters.
So much is happening. So much is happening.
The money that's
that's being thrown around is eye-watering. It's very much like a gold rush.
Of the 7 million people who are unemployed in this country, 1 million of them are right here in California. But at the same time, we're seeing this boom of AI jobs. How do you reconcile the two?
It is just that. It is two separate economies. And that's why a lot of young people, even talented young people, are thinking, I don't know if I can make it here in the Bay Area.
Let's take you beyond the headlines to the front lines with our team of journalists to explain how we find the stories and answers you're looking for. It's not enough to know what happened, but why? Because when you're searching for the truth, there's always a backstory.
Just for a second, think about all the different kinds of work that need to get done in an office. Okay, got it? Well, as much as 70% of those tasks are likely to become automated just within the next 5 years, thanks to AI. That's according to one industry estimate. Artificial intelligence is not only reshaping the workplace, but also California's economy.
Tell what's really.
And while some have been lucky enough to ride the AI boom, others have already seen their livelihoods go bust. So what does this mean for your ability to financially make it in the Golden State? And what does it have to do with RoboCop? I caught up with our business and tech reporter, Scott Budman, to get the backstory. How would you describe the...
My fault. Tell you, man, that's like the highest blood pressure in the whole history of
Eye-watering. It's very much like a gold rush.
Of the 7 million people who are unemployed in this country,
really important,
have already seen their livelihoods go bust. So what does this mean for your ability to financially make it in the Golden State? And what does it have to do with RoboCop? I caught up with our business and tech reporter, Scott Budman, to get the backstory. How would you describe the vibe right now in Silicon Valley?
It is all about AI. It feels very much like a bubble. We've been through these before. They're very exciting. The money that's being thrown around is eye-watering. We've seen that before. It's very much like a gold rush. Very much like a gold rush.
Okay, so I want to throw some numbers out at you. Of the 7 million people who are unemployed in this country, 1 million of them are right here in California. But at the same time, we're seeing this boom of AI jobs. How do you reconcile the two?
It is just that. It is two separate economies. There is a boom in AI jobs. And if you have AI skills, whether you're coming out of college with them or already working with them, you are in a position to make more money than in any time in your life and your career. However, if you don't have AI skills, your job is in jeopardy, your future is cloudy, and that's where the rest of California's economy comes in. The overall economy is struggling a bit. We have a slowdown. We have Elon Musk buying Twitter and cutting 75% of the staff. And say what you will about Twitter, now X, it's still up and running. That was a very interesting and dangerous message to tell CEOs across California and across tech. You can trim the sales of your company and still function and still make money and still work.
Okay, so it's rarely ever just one thing. So give us a sense, what are the factors right now contributing to having such a high unemployment rate?
I mean, you've got a lot of cutbacks, a lot of efficiency. You have a stock market telling companies, tech and otherwise, if you cut costs, we will boost your share value. Good news for investors, bad news for employers. You're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing that even from some companies that are making trillions of dollars. Meta cut way back and saw its stock price go from 90 to 700 in a couple of years. We've seen companies say, we're going to please investors at the expense and at the cost of a larger workforce. And so you really have to be in the right place as an employee right now. And that's how you get a high unemployment rate.
Okay, so you mentioned we've seen something like this before. Of course, in the 90s, we had the internet startups, and you had the surge of other tech startups, Facebook, Google, Airbnb in the 2010s. Oftentimes when there's a boom, there's a bust.
Yes.
Is that what we're going to see?
I mean, inevitably, not all these companies are going to succeed. That's never happened. We've seen booms turn into good times. Even the dot-com boom, where so many companies didn't succeed and were part of a bubble, and when that bubble popped, we saw tens of thousands of jobs lost just like that. But we got the internet out of it, and we got the iPhone out of it, and we got apps out of it, and we got Google, and like you say, Airbnb. Changes to our lives that are with us to this day came from the mid and late 90s. That's a pretty decent legacy, even though a lot of people had to sort of reconfigure their career and get back into the workforce. It's very likely that this will happen. Not all of these AI startups that are having amazing valuations are going to even succeed, not to mention go public and justify those valuations to investors. But what we'll get out of it, that we don't know. But AI seems to be changing the way a lot of businesses operate, even schools operate. We have entire majors at colleges in AI. And so this is going to be here to stay. The question is, in what way and just how big is it really going to be?
Okay, so if you have the kind of tech skill set that's putting you in high demand of these AI jobs right now, I mean, salary-wise, Scott, give us a sense. I mean, what are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about some basic salaries. Tech companies often pay salaries that are a little lower because there is back-end promise of wealth. You have stock options, and those stock options are really what fuel Silicon Valley's wealth in terms of I can buy a $3 million home, not because necessarily of the salary I make at a tech company, but I can buy that home because when my company goes public, I can cash in those options and have vast wealth. And that's traditionally what we've seen. Now, AI, we have seen a sliver of this where the salaries are really like NBA salaries. They're incredible. And that's because we have these startups like OpenAI, Anthropic, that are paying decent money, but boy, do they have back-end wealth promise. One day they'll either be bought for hundreds of billions of dollars or they'll go public at those valuations. The big companies like Microsoft and Meta especially, you see Mark Zuckerberg trying to cherry pick employees from these startups. He has to promise them gigantic money because Meta is already public, very successfully so. But if you start now, you're probably not going to get rich off the stock. So he's offering $100 million bonuses over 3 or 4 years to come to work for the established company. And that can be enticing for several reasons. One, you're getting a giant salary and giant money, but B, your company is going to be around for years and years and years, so there's more stability instead of wondering, am I going to be at the startup that makes it, or am I going to be at the startup that ultimately does not make it?
So to connect the dots for people, I mean, these are the same people that are living in communities with school teachers,
yes,
other blue-collar workers going to the same grocery stores, competing for the same daycare spots.
Yeah.
What is that doing then?
It does raise the prices of neighborhoods. I mean, I live in a very basic neighborhood in the South Bay. I remember we had a Google family. After a while, they pretty much had to move out. Like, it was just too basic of a neighborhood. They went and got a much bigger place. And it's raising the prices of homes, even basic homes, to a level we have not seen before. And that's simply because there is this section of wealth being created by tech companies, by stock options, that dwarfs everything else that we've ever seen before. And that's why a lot of young people, even talented young people, are thinking, I don't know if I can make it here in the Bay Area unless I have those AI skills. Because for their adult life, say the past 4, 5, 6, 7 years,
right-size the ship.
My worry about that long game is that those young, talented people say, I have to go somewhere else, whether it's Boston or Austin, Texas, or Florida, because no matter what your political beliefs, there's a place for you where you can afford housing. And the dream of Silicon Valley was to get those people here, and not just from America, but from India, from China, from Israel, from the UK, from Ireland. This is the default. Now we're telling people from all over the world, you have to have so much money if you want to do that American dream, have a family thing here, and start the company that creates all those jobs. And that's a rough 1-2 punch unless you already have that money. And my worry is that those young people will say, the default is no longer Silicon Valley. It's now somewhere else where I can afford to start a family, a very basic human want.
So right now across America, the average mortgage is about $2,500 a month.
Yes,
in San Jose, it's more than 11,000.
Yeah.
How do you compete?
You really can. If the average home costs $2 million, The average home costs $2 million, begad. That means we're asking of you, a young person or a young couple, a young family, to come up with, as a 20% down payment, $400,000, a very intimidating amount of money to have and put towards the house, and the privilege of paying that $11,000 a month mortgage. So one gigantically intimidating amount of money in order to pay another one every month. And, you know, do the math. It's a really, really hard thing to fathom if you're just now even saying, I've got a good salary. The next logical step would be to buy a home.
Let's talk about sort of the trickle-down impact to San Francisco. It's the look and the feel. We're in a city that used to have the nation's lowest office vacancy rate. Just 4% of office space was available.
Yeah.
The pandemic happened, and while things have improved a little bit, 35% of office space in downtown San Francisco is still sitting empty. Yet we're in the midst of this AI hiring boom. Do you think that may help things, or is much of this still going to continue to be sort of get to work remotely?
Yeah, here's the thing. It's already helped things a lot. That vacancy rate would be much higher if it weren't for the AI boom. Because a lot of the AI talent went to startups in San Francisco. They're flush with venture cash, begad, and so they can afford whatever office space in San Francisco they want. They can afford, obviously, these employees to bring in. So that vacancy rate would be much higher if it wasn't for the AI boom. That said, it's still high. The great experiment of let's see if tech companies can have people work from home kind of worked a lot better than people thought. Way better than people thought. Numbers were met. Deliveries still went on time. Stock prices stayed high, in fact, hitting some records during the, as long as you had your Peloton and your Netflix and your, you know, Instacart, you could pretty much live just fine. And then all of a sudden it was like the Salesforces and the Apple saying, wait a minute, we didn't spend billions of dollars on these gigantic, incredible corporate headquarters so you could be at home on your Peloton. We want you back. And that's been a tough push-pull kind of thing, because the employees have a really good point when they say the bottom lines were still good when we were at home, helping our children, not having to worry so much about child care, not having to commute in traffic as long, being able to spend more time with our spouses and our families. And aren't those great things in the work-life balance of it all?
Is part of the recruitment process still sort of selling the lifestyle of being in big tech? We have, you know, hockey tables that you can play with in your lunchtime. We're going to do your dry cleaning. Or is it now, you should be lucky that you're working for us and be prepared to work a lot of hours?
I think it's a combination of all of those things. You are expected to work a lot of hours. It really is demanding. It's always been demanding. That said, there are meals, there is dry cleaning, there are volleyball courts, there's fitness centers. The idea that you can make your life around your tech campus is still there, and it never really went away. They want you there, and they want you there for a long time, and they want you interacting with your fellow smart, creative people to come up with the next big thing.
Obviously, other tech hubs across the country, Austin, New York City, but it seems like California is laying out the biggest.
Yes, the most AI jobs are in California, not surprisingly. The most AI graduates are coming out of schools in California, also perhaps not surprisingly. But right, if you go to DC, people are talking about it. If you go to Texas, people are talking about it. If you go to Boston, they're talking about that, and biotech. You know, a lot of places right now.
They're talking about everything.
No compromise in terms of what we believe. We still believe America is the leader of the free world, that the West is superior, that we have to fight an unfair advantage. We are dedicating our company, we have dedicated our company to the service of the West and the United States of America, and we're super proud of the role we play, especially in places we can't talk about. Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them. And we hope you're in favor of that.
At Palantir, we are unashamed to admit that we work on behalf of the American warfighter. I do think we're in the early stages of a new Cold War with communist China.
We are at war with China. We are in an AI arms race. It's the liberty.
They don't care about who they surveil. And that's one of the things that I was always been talking about a lot lately. I'm talking about a lot. You know, we have a fucking Palantir office there. here in the city. Well, like really, literally, right around the corner from Jesse's house. You know what I mean? Literally, I think I walked past it sometimes like twice on the way to the bus stop to my house. To my apartment when I leave. Jesse's apartment. And I've been listening. Did a lot of listening actually. And sorry, my eyes leaking. I did a lot of listening about this. And somebody who's kind of 90% paranoid. I said paranoid for any reason, but I don't even know how to say it. It says, your phone shouldn't be all up in your mix. You should be able to walk down the street, have a private conversation, and not think that your ass is going to be listened to as you're talking shit or you're doing whatever you're doing. Because that's just sad. Motherfuckers are decide they want to stick Palantir on you because they don't like your political views. Okay? And it's already one thing that you feel like you're already targeted because all you're trying to do is change the plight of a condition that shouldn't be even going on. You know what I mean? It's been done a long time ago. Because it's not. You have people that are like constantly tripping. And they don't really care. People are like, I just want to feel safe, allegedly. But once it starts to infringe on them, then it's going to be a real issue. A very big issue. And this dude said he don't mind working for people the
loving, tech building people of the West, especially of America, who produce products that are so superior that the non-freedom loving people need to shiver a little more than they have in the past. And this is crucial for the West and all of our allies who primarily love the freedoms and liberties we have, to show our adversaries that in fact we are superior. Americans are the most loving, God-fearing, fair, least discriminatory people on the planet. If you're a foreign power sending fentanyl to poison our people, something really bad is going to happen to you and your friends and your cousins and your bank account and your mistress and whoever was involved. And, when Americans are spending $1 trillion on defense, we need to stand up, and those people need to be scared. And they need to wake up scared and go to bed scared. People want to live in peace. They want to go home. They do not want to hear your woke pagan ideology. They want to know they're safe. And safe means that the other person is scared. That's how you make someone safe. And my version of service is the soldiers are happier, the enemies are scared, and Americans go back to enjoying the fact that we're the only one with a real tech scene in this country, and we're going to win everything.
Palantir is a company that many people have heard of, but they don't know exactly what it does. Today, I'm going to explain how Palantir has become a key part of the U.S. military-industrial complex and how its corporate executives profit from war. Now, Palantir is a company that provides software primarily to Western governments, especially the U.S. government. It has been given huge contracts from the U.S. military and the Department of Homeland Security and the notoriously violent immigration agency, ICE. Palantir is involved in mass surveillance and so-called predictive policing, which is exactly the kind of thing we were warned about in dystopian science fiction movies. And the majority of Palantir's revenue comes from government contracts. As I'll show today in detail with many quotes, the executives of Palantir are extremely hawkish, especially Palantir's CEO, Alex Karp, who is a warmonger constantly pushing for more war. In fact, he has said very openly that he expects that in the near future, the US is going to be fighting a three-front war against Russia, Iran, and China, which what he's really talking about there is World War III. And it's not an exaggeration to say that Palantir is preparing the US government for World War III, and it hopes to profit and make a lot of money, especially by saber rattling against China. As I'll show today, Palantir's executives are extremely hawkish against China. Palantir is also very close to the Donald Trump administration. Trump has given Palantir tons of contracts for multiple different US government agencies, and in particular, the Trump administration is relying on Palantir to conduct mass surveillance of Americans, of US citizens, to compile and synthesize data from all US government agencies in order to help the government spy better on its own citizens. And because Palantir is so close to Trump and his allies, as soon as Trump won the presidential election in November 2024, Palantir's stock skyrocketed and broke records as investors assumed correctly that the Trump administration would give more and more contracts to Palantir. However, it soon became clear that Palantir stock was extremely overvalued, with price to earnings ratios that were absolutely off the charts and did not make any sense. They were completely illogical based on manic speculation. It was in a bubble, and that bubble popped in November 2025, a year later, especially when renowned investors like Michael Burry of the movie The Big Short announced that he was shorting Palantir's stock. And this freaked out Palantir's corporate executives, especially the CEO, Alex Karp, who went on TV and attacked Michael Burry and short sellers and said they were crazy. And he claimed that Palantir was the greatest software company in the entire world. I'm not exaggerating.
We delivered the best results anyone's ever seen. They're actually shorting one of the great businesses of the world. When I hear short sellers attacking what I believe is clearly the most important software company in America, and therefore in the world in terms of our impact, simply to make money, and trying to call the AI revolution into question, it just is super triggering, because these people, they could pick on any company in the world. They have to pick on the one that actually helps people, that actually has made money for the average person, that is actually supporting our warfighters. Why do they have to go after us?
However, just 2 weeks after Palantir's CEO went on TV and attacked anyone shorting his company stocks, claiming they were all crazy, 2 weeks later, according to filings with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, Alex Karp and many other executives at Palantir started selling off hundreds of millions of dollars of stock that they held in their company, which they claimed was perfect and only an idiot would sell the stock. More specifically, CEO Alex Karp sold off $96 million of Palantir stock after he had gone on TV and claimed that anyone shorting Palantir stock was crazy. Later on today in this analysis, I'll show some of the incredible clips from that interview. But first, I want to explain more about Palantir, because again, like I said, this is a company that so many people have heard of, but they don't understand exactly what it does. I think it's very important to go into detail, because this is a company that's becoming more and more important in the U.S. military-industrial complex. And as the U.S. wages wars around the world and expands the mass surveillance of people, not only Americans, but people in other countries, the U.S. military-industrial complex and the U.S. surveillance state rely very heavily on the software provided by Palantir. So let's start by talking about where Palantir came from. Originally, as a startup company, Palantir was funded by the CIA, and that's because the CIA wanted to use its technology, especially for mass surveillance and espionage. And alongside current CEO Alex Karp, another co-founder of Palantir was the billionaire Silicon Valley oligarch Peter Thiel. Thiel is a close ally of Donald Trump, and in fact, he was one of the major funders of Trump's first presidential campaign. Peter Thiel has also been one of the main financial sponsors of current U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. In fact, Vance previously worked for Peter Thiel. Thiel was literally his boss And then when J.D. Vance ran for Senate in Ohio, Peter Thiel funded his political campaign, successfully won that election thanks to Peter Thiel. Now, Thiel sometimes uses so-called libertarian rhetoric, but in reality, he promotes a far-right ideology. Thiel famously wrote that, quote, "I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible," end quote, and he argued that capitalism is much more important than democracy. He also infamously complained about women getting the right to vote, claiming that women's suffrage was horrible for libertarianism. However, when Thiel talks about capitalism, he doesn't mean it in the sense of Adam Smith, with competition bringing down prices for everyone and promoting efficiency, at least theoretically. He openly defends monopolies. Thiel is proud of the fact, he has written openly, that capitalism is based on monopoly, which he says is a good thing. He's against competition. In fact, he wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal titled "Competition is for Losers," in which he argued that capitalism is based on monopolies and that monopolies are good. And he complained that if there's perfect competition, in fact, profit margins would eventually go to zero as companies compete with each other to create products that are more effective and cheaper, which is bad for capitalists, for the owners of capital, like Peter Thiel, who is a billionaire oligarch from Silicon Valley. That's why he loves monopolies. And it's also a major reason why Peter Thiel and his oligarch friends who co-founded Palantir, they hate China. It's a significant reason why they're pushing for war on China, because China is the only country in the world that actually has technological competitors that can challenge the monopoly of Silicon Valley big tech corporations. This is a reason why even the chief technology officer of Palantir said openly that the US is at war with China.
We are at war with China. We are in an AI arms race.
I'll talk more about that in a few minutes here. First, I want to talk more about Palantir's work for the US government. I already established that the majority of Palantir's revenue comes from governments, primarily the US government, but also Western governments like the...
Sorry about that. This is like warmongers and warlords making dangerous weapons, or having the capability to pretty much be in your mix through your phone, your computer, your car, if you have a smart car, anything like that. And where you're in your house chilling, worried about one thing, whatever they're compiling, and they can just pretty much do whatever with. It's one of those things where you just couldn't. They can do whatever. They can walk up to you, touch your shoulder, next thing you know you're dead. They could arrest you in front of everybody for no goddamn reason, just you're ghosted, gone for something they don't like. This is just one of those things, and it's competitive. So, we've been kind of already knowing that they have been trying to plot out like a civil war, another one. For no damn reason. All this shit is really just gonna hurt the people. It's like if we could always just say, hey, well, they want to fight so much, let them go do it. Them, meaning, the elite, the ones who pay for this shit. So, we should be very for it. And I think it's really bad that you gotta, this dude, he's dying to kill somebody. If he hasn't already did, if he hasn't done it. You know what I mean? He's dying to be scoping out whatever miscellaneous secrets you think you have that apparently they've been knowing about for 50,000 motherfucking years. You know what I mean? And he's throwing, that dude, Alex is throwing grown man tantrums. He's raising his fist in the air and he's whatever. But then he sells all his stocks for what? Why would you sell them to? What'd you sell them for? You know what I mean? Sorry about that. Yeah, this is dangerous. And I'm like, why do we have him here? They're in charge of everything. You know, they're like the software is the best. Sure, sure it is. I can just see all kinds of unintended consequences with this. You know, a lot of races they all look the same, and some people just get caught up in doing mischief when they really weren't doing mischief. A lot of that shit was used to get illegal immigrants and gang members off the street or whatever. You know what I mean? Basically, putting us in a ugly state of mind. You know, paranoid and scared. People are scared. No, you shouldn't be scared. Be scared of your government. That means there's something really wrong. You know what I mean?
The UK and Germany. Palantir has become one of the most important US government contractors, especially for the Pentagon, previously known as the Department of Defense, now more aptly known as the Department of War. And in fact, the Financial Times reported that Palantir and other military contractors like Anduril, these are both companies run by right-wing oligarchs in Silicon Valley, and they're both named after the Lord of the Rings. Come on, guys, read another book. But anyway, the FT reported that they're working with other companies like Elon Musk's SpaceX and Sam Altman's OpenAI to form what the FT called a consortium to jointly bid for U.S. government work. There's another term for this, which is a cartel. Mainstream economists, going back to Adam Smith, have always said that cartels of business interests are bad for average people because they conspire against the public. And this is exactly what Palantir has been doing with other big tech corporations from Silicon Valley, run by these billionaire CEOs, who, by the way, are all friends with each other. In fact, many of these Silicon Valley oligarchs are part of what is known as the PayPal mafia, including Peter Thiel, the co-founder of Palantir, including Elon Musk, and also David Sacks. Who is David Sacks? Well, in addition to being involved in PayPal like those other oligarchs, Sacks was an early investor in Palantir, and he was a big donor to Donald Trump's second presidential campaign. And in gratitude due to his financial support for Trump, Trump nominated him as the White House so-called AI and crypto czar. So he essentially bought his way into the White House and is very close to Trump. And this is why it's not surprising that the Trump administration has given massive contracts to Palantir and is using Palantir in order to conduct mass surveillance of U.S. citizens. The New York Times reported that in just 2 months after Trump returned to office in January 2025, his administration gave Palantir nearly $1 billion worth of government contracts with numerous federal agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and the Pentagon. In particular, a $795 million contract with the so-called Department of Defense, which is now known as the Department of War. Palantir is working for at least 4 U.S. federal agencies. This is just what we know of. What is especially concerning is how closely Palantir is working with ICE, which is carrying out many abuses. Not only has ICE been horrifically abusing undocumented immigrants by launching raids with agents in normal clothes, civilian clothes, with masks on, who don't identify themselves, who just throw people randomly in an unmarked car. And basically just kidnap them. But it's not just that. ICE has also arrested U.S. citizens at protests. So more and more, it looks like ICE is being used as a kind of political secret police by the US government in order to intimidate and arrest and harass people who protest against the government and don't like the US.
That's that shit that Higgs is talking about. The war within, right? Talking about advocates, protesters, activists, the media, anybody who disagrees. They want to take care of everybody over here and fight everybody's battles, but can't solve a fucking war in the Ukraine. You know what I mean? What's really dangerous is that this dude, Palantir, should have a no compete clause or something like that. If you're working for 4 different governments in our government, behind the scenes, that's dangerous. And nobody knows what everybody knows. You know what I mean? But you got this one warmongering machine, because that's what it is, working with ICE, and is probably responsible for all sorts of madness that's happening within the United States. These fucking cameras are out of control. Sanctuary cities are being violated. In my head, I don't really give a damn about that part. Oh, what I do care about is normal citizens who don't have shit as it is, can't even maneuver around without feeling some kind of way. Like, that's not no way to make your base or your voters, whatever you're doing, feel confident, safe, and secure. Instead, it's going to be like it's a policing state. It's nosy. It's it's all up in your mix. It knows what you ate. It knows what things you like to look at that you're not supposed to be looking at on the internet. What you like to shop for, what you eat, if you have any vices, if you're having affairs, if you're conspiring, just thinking about, God, like any kind of nefarious thought process, like the thought police, you know what I mean? Like, for example, I'll give you another example. I might be looking at the phone because I was thinking about starting, just starting something, a little something I could do at home. It's kind of like maybe, I could earn like $15, $20 here and there, so I could do certain things, a little bit creative, maybe work on my intuitiveness, on my palm reading, or who knows what, my rituals, who the fuck knows. I have a plethora of nefarious friends, that's just because I've been on the street. Palantir is not going to house me or keep me warm, It's just going to lock me under the jail. And again, that's it's not just racist, it's just anti-people, like, you want to start a war in the USA and still fight wars that you created with the other 3 major players in there. I think that's real shit. And Trump, he only has like 4 years. Regardless of how you think he's gonna make it, he may not make it those 4 years. He may get sick. He may just anything can happen. You know what I mean? This is just another experiment, and I think that, like, with them taking away food stamps and government jobs is basically leaving this as a government entity. So people are losing their stuff, their courthouse privileges, their jobs, their federal jobs, and things like that. And you think's picking up the slack, wherever they outsourced it to, right? So good American citizens don't have no job. Sooner or later, they won't have nowhere to live. Sooner or later, they might fall into some sort of depression or whatever. Sooner or later, they're doing things to stay awake. You know what I mean? They make plans. It's like that. There's no reason that the government needs to know so much. You know, especially when it's just taking from the poor. You know what I mean? Them having liquid stock is like crazy. And you're with the most like greediest president, really. He has to have all the money and all the access. So it's really terrible. Really terrible. And this is online. They say so. It's okay. When you work for 4 different agencies, if it was me and I was them, I would tell him I don't trust him to do anything if he's working with so and so, so and so, and so and so. That means all my secrets could be in any one of my enemy's hands, even if he did say no. You know what I mean? He won't he has to get off on a court order or whatever. You know what I mean? But either way, it's all bad.
Government's policies. And as if that weren't enough, Palantir is also involved in the U.S. government's use of facial recognition technology targeting Americans. The U.S. government has vast amounts of data, and Palantir software helps the U.S. government sift through all of that data and synthesize that data that is collected from mass surveillance, from facial recognition. Palantir is helping to facilitate all of that, and not just in the U.S., but also in other Western governments. For example, in Germany, Palantir is helping to expand mass surveillance, copying the U.S. model of mass surveillance. And in Germany, Palantir is involved in so-called predictive policing, which is the kind of crazy stuff you see in sci-fi books and movies like Minority Report, where Palantir's technology is being used by police to comb through data and claim that they can predict future crime that has not yet been committed. This is the kind of dystopian stuff that we've been warned about for decades, and Palantir is not only facilitating it, it's profiting from it. So this is what the libertarian co-founders of Palantir had in mind. These billionaire oligarchs like Peter Thiel, who famously wrote for a libertarian website that freedom is more important than democracy, that capitalism is more important than democracy. Meanwhile, he co-founded a company that's engaged in mass surveillance and Minority Report style predictive policing, and is helping the US war machine to wage war around the world. This is actually existing libertarianism from Silicon Valley. All of this is why the British newspaper The Guardian stated that the CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp, may be the world's scariest CEO. It noted that Palantir is creating the ultimate state surveillance tool, and that's why Palantir has been likened to George Orwell's Big Brother or Skynet from the Terminator movies. And it pointed out that Alex Karp referred to Palantir as, quote, the most important software company in America and therefore in the world, end quote. And I want to talk more about Alex Karp because this guy is a completely unhinged war hawk. I already mentioned how he is preparing for World War III and stated with confidence that the US government will soon be engaged in a 3-front war with Iran, Russia, and China. Again, this is World War III. It would be catastrophic, but this is just scratching the surface because it's truly shocking how openly Alex Karp talks about the fact how he is preparing for war and how he likes violence. This is what Alex Karp wrote in his 2024 letter to Palantir shareholders. Quote, as Samuel Huntington has written, the rise of the West was not made possible by the superiority of its ideas or values or religion, but rather by its superiority in applying organized violence. He continued, Westerners often forget this fact, non-Westerners never do, end quote. That's how the CEO of Palantir ended his 2024 letter to shareholders. I mean, this is the kind of thing that a comic book villain would do. This is the CEO of one of the most influential US corporations. Now, Alex Karp is a blatant imperialist. He constantly says in his speeches that the West is superior to the rest of the world, that the US leads the so-called free world, and that Palantir is going to help the US empire to be the strongest country and to bully all other countries around and be number one with what he calls an unfair advantage. He's proud of the fact, he says, the US government should provide an unfair advantage for its corporations. Listen here. This is the summary of Palantir's worldview.
No compromise in terms of what we believe. We still believe America is the leader of the free world, that the West is superior, that we have to fight for these values, that we should give American corporations and, most importantly, our government an unfair advantage. We've demonstrated in every area and arena of American life and international life that we do deliver an unfair advantage for our allies, our friends, and our compatriots.
Alex Karp proudly states that Palantir is an imperialist tool of the West that is used to scare and kill the enemies of the West, and in particular, the United States. Listen to this crazy quote of the CEO of Palantir on an earnings call addressing shareholders.
We are dedicating our company, we have dedicated our company to the service of the West and the United States of America, and we're super proud of the role we play, especially in places we can't talk about. Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them. And we hope you're in favor of that.
Now, Palantir is very close to the Trump administration, which is why it's not surprising to hear that many executives at Palantir use the same language of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the guy who renamed the Defense Department to the Department of War. And Hegseth and the Trump administration constantly refer to U.S. troops and soldiers as war fighters. And Palantir does the exact same thing. And in this clip, CEO Alex Karp makes it clear that Palantir's mission is to serve the U.S. war fighters, to kick the butt of the U.S. empire's adversaries.
We are going to support the U.S. government, and this is crucial. It's like we have the resources in this country. We often have not used them to support our war fighters, and that's changed, and in great part because our adversaries are clearly just worthy of getting kicked in the fanny. A technical term.
Alex Karp claims that the United States is the best country ever. The people of the U.S. are the greatest people on earth. No one is as good as the American people. And that's why Palantir's mission is to make the U.S. empire as deadly as possible, to make foreign countries fear the U.S. empire.
It's the liberty-loving, tech-building people of the West, especially of America, who produce products that are so superior that the non-freedom-loving people need to shiver a little more than they have in the past. And this is crucial for the West and all of our allies who primarily love the freedoms and liberties we have, to show our adversaries that, in fact, we are superior because America is the best at building software. And the fact that we can build weapons, software-enhanced weapons that really make our adversaries quiver.
Fear is a major part of Palantir's mission. It wants other countries to fear the U.S. empire and the U.S. war machine. Here in another interview, Alex Karp explains Palantir's mission.
Americans are the most loving, God-fearing, fair, least discriminatory people on the planet. If you're a foreign power sending fentanyl to poison our people, something really bad is going to happen to you and your friends and your cousins and your bank account and your mistress and whoever was involved. And, you know, when Americans are spending $1 trillion on defense, we need to stand up, and those people need to be scared because we have the best products in the world, and we cannot have parity. Our adversaries do not have our moral compunction. If it's even, they will take advantage of our niceness, kindness, our desire to be at home in Nebraska or New Hampshire or wherever we live in our peaceful environments. And they need to wake up scared and go to bed scared. People want to live in peace. They want to go home. They do not want to hear your woke pagan ideology. They want to know they're safe. And safe means that the other person is scared. That's how you make someone safe. And my version of service is the soldiers are happier, the enemies are scared, and Americans go back to enjoying the fact that we're the only one with a real tech scene in this country, and we're going to win everything. That's how I see it.
Now, when Palantir's CEO says they want the adversaries of the U.S. to be afraid, who do they mean by adversaries? Well, number one is China. Alex Karp and his colleagues are extreme China hawks, and Karp has constantly said that the U.S. is in a new AI arms race with China, and it's a zero-sum game. the US has to win. And the chief technology officer of Palantir takes it a step even further. CTO Shyam Sankar argues that the US is already at war with China. The US is waging war against China on multiple fronts. Listen here.
But I think the real lesson, the more profound one, is that we are at war with China. We are in an AI arms race. But this war started long ago. It was an economic war with the ascension of China to the World Trade Organization. It is an opium war. It is a diplomatic war. The Belt and Road Initiative is basically indentured servitude for other countries to the CCP here. You know, China knows they're at war. The question is, we kind of equivocate on it as a peace-loving nation.
Other Palantir executives have made similar remarks. In fact, Palantir hired the Republican former Congressman Mike Gallagher, who is an extreme China hawk and was previously the chair of the U.S. House of Representatives Anti-China Committee, preparing for a new Cold War against China. And in an interview on Fox News, Mike Gallagher, this former Republican congressman who is now the head of defense at Palantir, he proudly stated that the U.S. government is waging a new Cold War against China. And in this new Cold War II, it is AI that replaces nuclear weapons in the first Cold War.
The head of defense at Palantir Technologies, former Congressman Mike Gallagher, is here in studio.
I do think we're in the early stages of a new Cold War with communist China. I think the analogy allows us to understand the scale of the effort. This is a whole of society competition, as well as the stakes, which I would argue are existential. And the rough analogy is that the role that nuclear weapons played in the old Cold War with the Soviet Union is the role that AI is playing in this new Cold War with China.
Mike Gallagher boasted that Palantir is serving the U.S. empire's lethal war fighters and preparing them for more war to scare U.S. adversaries like China.
At Palantir, we are unashamed to admit that we work on behalf of the American warfighter, and we're finding that there's a lot of patriotic, talented young Americans who actually want to apply their talents to helping American warfighters become more lethal and scaring the crap out of America's enemies.
I like that at the end there.
Palantir is a dystopian company that is full of these unrepentant warmongers. And thus far, I've been talking about Palantir's U.S. operations primarily, but I also want to briefly talk about Palantir's UK operations, because the head of Palantir in the UK and Europe is another right-wing warmonger named Lewis Mosley. And would it surprise you to learn that Lewis Mosley is the grandson of the most infamous and powerful fascist in the history of the United Kingdom, Oswald Mosley, who was the leader of the British Union of Fascists and a personal friend of Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. Now, some people would say, okay, well, don't hold the grandson accountable for the crimes of his grandfather. But he's continuing in the footsteps of his grandfather. Palantir is one of the most fascistic institutions on earth, carrying out exactly the kinds of crimes and imperialist wars and mass surveillance and preventive policing and face recognition and all of these crimes carried out by fascist regimes 100 years ago. This is what Palantir is facilitating today and profiting from. So I don't think it's just a symbolic coincidence that the grandson of the most notorious British fascist is today helping to lead Palantir in the UK. That is the perfect illustration of what Palantir truly represents. It is the corporate heart of the fascistic US empire that is waging war around the world and preaching so-called Western superiority, claiming that the US-led West is superior to the rest of the world. Everyone else is a barbarian that needs to be cowering in fear of the US empire that needs to maximize its lethality to impose its hegemony on the rest of the world by using advanced technology for war.
across that brought these tens of thousands of people here. And then you start to think about what Dana Marie just said, that the focus now is on this suspect's past. So now if the administration is focusing on that, then they also have to focus on the tens and thousands of people who came across and their past.
You know, all right, guys, so we'll bring it to discussion. I've got a lot to say on this, obviously, just having fought in this war, but also spending the